Hi, I'm Eddie Stubbs. I'm one of the staff announcers for WSM Radio in the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. You know, back in the late 1950s, Don Reno, one of the greatest banjo players of all time, was asked the question, besides he and Earl Scruggs, who he felt was the best banjo player out there at the time. Without hesitation, he said the name Allen Shelton. We're visiting with Allen Shelton today in his home in Bethpage, Tennessee. Allen, so good to see you.
Thank you.
Boy, I tell you what, I have admired your work for so many years, as have so many people, and I dare say there's not a banjo player out there on the circuit today that hasn't borrowed at some point or another from the catalog of Allen Shelton's breaks and backup licks. You know, you've been a tremendously influential figure in the history of this music. It's just a joy to be with you.
Well, I'm glad that they think that much of it, that they'd want to do that, First of all, I'm honored that the museum would want to do this and to have you here.
Well,
It's
thank you.
quite an honor.
Well,
I
I'm thrilled
really
to be here in your presence in your home. The Allen Shelton story begins in Reidsville, North Carolina. That's where you were born?
Yeah, near there,
When you say near there, was there
in the country.
in the country? But was it
Yeah.
considered Reidsville? Was that your mailing address at that time?
I think so. I'm not positive because the in that county, the county seat is Wentworth, and it's not Reidsville, but it's Wentworth is just a crossroads. It never grew, but Reidsville did.
Mm-hmm. How far out of Reidsville were you? Because Reidsville's a pretty good sized town these days.
Yeah, these days it is. It's I don't know, 7 or 8 miles,
Okay.
something like that.
When were you born, if you don't mind stating that?
1936, at home.
At home.
Hmm
What day of the month and all that?
Oh, July 2nd, 1936.
All right. Was music abundant in your home?
Yeah, Dad played. He played about every instrument except fiddle, and he tried that. But he played guitar, and then he played for square dances on weekends, and that was a lot of our income. We farmed during the week, and he would play the dance on Saturday night, and that'd get us groceries for the next week.
You talked about farming. What did you all farm?
Tobacco, corn, regular small farmer, and it was a lot of hard work.
And no doubt you helped with that too, didn't
Yeah,
you?
flue cured tobacco.
Wow. The whole family helped.
Right,
Nobody got off easy.
Right,
did
you
they?
had to. Yeah, that's right.
You talked about your dad playing music. Did he inspire you to want to learn? Did he put an instrument in your hands, or how did that all happen?
Well, kinda. I learned to play chords on the mandolin first.
How old are you at this time?
Oh, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. And then I learned the chords on the guitar, just regular open chords. Not nothing closed and fancy, just regular open chords. And then when I got to about 14, I got interested in the banjo. I got to hear in Earl Scruggs with Monroe, and of course he's my hero, and so I picked. The neighbor had an old banjo that didn't have a back on it, just plunky banjo, and he played the old thumbcock style, or whatever you call that.
Claw hammer?
Claw hammer.
Drop thumb?
Right.
Frailing style?
Right, frailing. And so I got to messing with it down to his house, and started learning a few notes and everything. And then and Dad, he was playing the dances, and their banjo player quit, and so he decided he was going to learn to play the banjo, and so he borrowed one and brought it home, and that's when I really got started on it.
Now, was that a 5-string banjo?
Yeah,
Did it have a back on it, a resonator, and all that?
yeah, and and we both started learning together.
Really?
and he played entirely different from me, and I did entirely different from him. He played a lot more like the Reno style, a lot of rolling, and I learned to break the roll and play more like Scruggs.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, how were you learning? I mean, what was the impetus for you learning at that point in time? I mean, you mentioned that you had heard Earl Scruggs with Bill Monroe. I'm assuming that was over the Grand Ole Opry broadcast,
right.
Or did you have some of Monroe's records that Earl was on at that time?
well, I didn't have the records, but we had them on jukeboxes and things around the house, which I spent all my money playing. But any way I could get it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
did somebody show you a roll, or was this something that you picked up with the right hand?
well, when I started doing the roll, real slow, looked like a spider crawling, and my dad laughed. He laughed at me. He said that worst looking thing he'd ever seen, you know, and just laughed. And of course, that just made me more determined, you know. I was going to do this, and of course he caught the roll fast, you know, quick, and like I said, his emphasis and everything he played was completely different from me.
Mm-hmm.
But
so were you showing each other things at the time? Were you kind of teaching each other as you went along? Or?
yeah, and also we had a guy in the neighborhood by the name of Junior Biggs that played banjo, and he played three-finger style,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't play like nobody. And I picked up some from him, you know, because he could take a break or lead most any song, country song, anything. So I caught on a lot from him too.
Now, you're a young kid at the time. You're mentioning like you're about 14 years old.
14 when I started learning, yeah.
Yeah. Were you buying records and slowing the records down? I've heard a lot of people did that years ago. Was that the way you learned?
No, I couldn't afford that.
You were just going by what your ear heard and what you were able to remember then, if I'm following you right.
Yeah, and what I could pick up from other people, watch it.
When was the first time that you saw Earl Scruggs? Do you recall?
I think it was earlier, before I started learning to play. He was, they came to Reedsville at the municipal building, I believe, and did a show. And
That was he and Lester Flatt together?
yeah, it was Monroe, Lester and Earl, and Cedric Rainwater, and I want to say Howdy Forster, but I've been told it couldn't have been him. But they laid down some music.
Was that a life-changing experience?
More or less, and we hitchhiked to the show.
Really?
Yeah, and then had to walk most of the way back home. You know, 7 or 8 miles.
It was worth it, though, I bet, wasn't it?
But anyway.
I've heard a lot of people, well, just a handful of people talk about seeing that band, if you will, that gave birth to what we know as bluegrass music. And they said it was almost like a life-changing experience. It was one thing to have heard them on a 78 record or to have heard them coming over the airwaves of WSM for an Opry broadcast, but to have seen them in person, it was just mind-boggling.
Well, of course, the place was packed out and the acoustics were real bad.
But that didn't matter, did it?
And it was real echoey. And no, it didn't really matter.
Because you're getting to see these guys, you'd never seen pictures of them or anything.
No,
I'm sure, you know.
right.
So that's what that guy looks like playing the banjo.
Yeah.
Wow. But that was before you started playing, you said.
Yeah,
Wow.
That was.
So basically, what you learned on the instrument, you picked up from watching other people that were in your home area, and what your ear was allowing you to hear by way of the handful of records that had a banjo out there on them.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see any other groups in those days and times, professional people? I mean, like the Stanley Brothers come to mind, or any of those people?
No. Stanley Brothers were in Virginia, and of course this is Reedsville, North Carolina, and they didn't come over that far. I couldn't pick their radio shows up or anything.
There in Bristol.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're like 14 years old. You start playing the banjo. What was that first banjo that your dad brought home? What kind of an instrument was that? Do you recall?
No, I think it was a Gibson, but I don't remember what model or anything about that. Anyway, he kept it for about one summer, and then that fall when we sold tobacco, I used my money and bought a banjo, and it was an old Master Tone Gibson. Had belonged to Charlie Poole.
Really?
Right, and it was what they call the ball bearing. It wasn't very loud. Had a beautiful tone, but it wasn't very loud.
Do you remember what you paid for it?
$100.
That was a lot of money in those days.
Oh, was it ever? It took. That's all my. It was all my money I made that year for the crop. You know.
Wow. So you're like 15 years old now, would you say? Would that
Yeah,
be about
somewhere,
right?
yeah,
So this roughly, this is about 1951 then. Does that sound right?
No, well, somewhere in there.
Okay.
But this banjo, it was in real bad shape. It didn't note out, and it, like I said, it wasn't very loud. And I got all kind of flack after I went to work with Jim Eanes that it wasn't loud enough. So I sent it back to Gibson, and they reworked it, but it came back and it had a bow in the neck. When you capoed, like on the third fret or B flat, why it was a half a thing, a half a fret off.
And Gibson had done this in the process of repairing the instrument?
Yeah, well, if I had known like I know now, I could have took it to somebody and they could probably tighten a rod in there and straighten it out, Right. But I didn't know that.
Right.
I'm 16, 17 years old, and I've got to have a banjo to play. Mm-hmm. So I traded it to an old man that played thumbcot style for a RB 150, which is a bow tie 150 with that doesn't have a tone ring. Mm-hmm. It's just under the master tone.
Was that a flat head or a raised head?
Raised head.
Raised head. Okay.
And that's the banjo that I played through the Hack Johnson. I'm pretty sure that it's one Home Sweet Home was done with, mm-hmm. and all those records.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned about Jim Eanes. I know you worked a couple different stints with Jim. How did that job come about to work with him the first time?
Well, I listened to him. We listened to him every day.
And he was on in Danville, Virginia. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
And Hubert Davis was playing banjo for him. A real good banjo player. But Hubert got so, he didn't show up a lot of times. So next thing we heard, they were looking for a banjo player. So I went and tried out for it.
Had you been acquainted with Jim prior to that?
No, not at all.
You'd never seen him work or anything like that?
We just knew his material by listening.
Right. He was quite popular in that area, wasn't he?
Very popular. Real good singer.
Oh, yeah.
A country singer with a bluegrass band. Yeah. That's what I always said.
Yeah.
But back then, it was all music. It wasn't bluegrass and country. It was just country music. Yeah. Everything was.
Yeah. So you went to work for Jim. That was your first. Had you been in local bands prior to that before going with Jim?
Yeah, I had played some dances, and there's this guy was on TV on Saturday night. I never did get to play on television, but I worked some of his dances, and I can't think of his name right now.
Where was he based out of? Reidsville then, or?
No, Greensboro.
Greensboro. Okay. Okay. So you started with Jim Eanes, and what year would that have been, or how old would you have been at that time?
Well, I think I was 16 when I started with Jim.
So I
stayed 9 months.
So that'd been like 1952.
52.
Okay. Now, when you worked with Jim there, what did your work entail with Jim? Did you just do early morning programs and then work out at night, or how did you work with Jim at that time?
Had a daily radio show. It was around noon, and then Friday and Saturday night dance, and then plus schools and stuff during the week. But always had those dances.
What radio station was he on at that time?
BTM.
BTM in Danville. Okay. Did you move to Danville or did you stay in Reidsville?
I moved. Yeah, I was single. I moved down there.
Did you have another job going at that time other than music, or?
No, he was paying me $35 a week, and I was doing real great. You couldn't tell me nothing, you know.
You were in tall cotton. You never seen that kind of money.
That's right.
Just think, in 3 weeks' time, you could have bought you another Charlie Poole banjo, right?
Right.
It's hard to imagine. Of course, you mentioned Jim being basically a country singer with a bluegrass band behind him. You know, it's so hard for us to fathom in this day and time an acoustic band going out and working a dance. But Jim Eanes is one of those people that made a great living doing those dances for years.
Exactly. Yeah, he sure did.
Now, what type of dances were these? Were these square dances or round dances or Paul Jones? What all did they do there?
Well, it's square dances. In that area up there, they do a step called the hot poker. They call it the hot poker. Well, when I got to Nashville and I saw the dancers go out on the stage, that's the exact step they do up there. You know, the jump. And on Saturday night in Martinsville, when we were playing that dance, I'd go down underneath to the concession stand, and it looked like the floor would come down. Every time it would hit a certain spot, everybody would hit at the same time up there. And the floor would actually move.
Wow. Was Roy Russell in the band in those days playing fiddle with Jim?
Yeah, he was there with Jim when we first started.
Who else was in the band at that point there in the early days?
Arnold Terry.
Arnold played bass.
Guitar and sing.
Okay.
And Bill Bedsaw, he was a mandolin player, sung tenor. Well, he sung tenor, and I also sung tenor after he left. I had to take the tenor parts.
Who taught you how to sing the part?
Dad.
Your dad taught you to sing?
Yeah.
When you would go out and work, you didn't. How far out could you get at night? I know you have to get back in, but I mean, what was the radius of that, the coverage of that radio station?
Well, it was 5,000 watts, so it would go out, I don't know, 100 miles or so.
And you tour right out to the fringes of that signal most of the time?
Most of the time, yeah.
Jim did his own booking in those days?
Yeah.
Then the next job came with Mac Wiseman, am I right on that?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
He just called me and wanted to know, and then, of course, the money was a lot better. And
how much was he paying you, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I think he started at 50, something like that, and then he raised me to 60.
Now, he was working at WRVA at that point, wasn't he? The Old Dominion Barn Dance in Richmond.
Right.
And that was a step up the ladder to get on a program like that.
And he was real popular. He had records that was really going right then.
Speaking of records, you had not made any records in that early period with Jim Eanes, or had you? I didn't think you had. I know you got to record with Mac.
Yeah.
Was that the first recording work that you had done at that point in time?
Yeah. I need to tell you this, too. This is different. When I left Jim Eanes and went to Richmond to take the job, I was on the Greyhound bus and had my banjo sitting, leaned against the seat, and I was sitting on the outside, the aisle. And of course, then you had those old hides on your banjo. And about halfway up there, I heard that thing go boing. And when I got to Richmond and opened that thing up, the head was split all the way across. And so I started that job in a brand new town, didn't know where no music store or nothing was. And so I had to get out and hunt and find one and get a head and put on it.
That's something we need to talk about because people today, they can't fathom what a nightmare that was. I've heard J.D. Crowe say that those heads in those days cost, what, $20, $25 a piece, something like that?
Yeah, I think it was around 22. And I almost went hungry one time. I busted 3 in 2 weeks. And if you're not making but $35 a week, think that's what that'll do to you, you know.
Now, could you go into basically any general music store and buy a
Pretty
banjo
much.
head?
Yeah, if there was a good music store, they'd have it. But
And there were several different gauges of those heads too, weren't there? Am I
yeah,
right
of course,
on that?
I always tried to get the best because that was making my living. But you'd go out and play on top of a drive-in theater thing and get real damp, you know, and then when you get back to the radio station and the good air conditioning and everything, and it dries out, it might go, you know.
And you never knew when it was going to go, did you?
No.
Were there any precautions you could take to maybe help minimize this breakage of these things?
Well, you just had to be careful not get it too tight to start with. If you got it too tight to start with, then it would. When it dried out, it would go. But
what was the average length of time that you could keep a head on a banjo in those days? Any idea?
I didn't have one on long enough to know.
I guess you were working so much in such adverse conditions, like you say, going from indoors to outdoors. If you played if all you ever did was work inside in a radio studio, it would probably last you a whole lot longer.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, that damp weather and such.
Right.
Good golly.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of money. I mean, $20 for a banjo head, and you said you went through 3 of them in
2 weeks.
And when you were traveling, did you keep an extra one on hand with you?
Oh no, you couldn't afford to do that.
Mac Wiseman wouldn't pay quite that good, did he?
But anyway, I went and got a head and put on that banjo, and I got with him, and of course then I had to find a place to stay and all that. But I worked for Mac 6 months and went in 20 states, and in the back of a station wagon.
What kind of a car was he traveling in those days?
Ford station wagon, and then he traded it for a Mercury station wagon.
Now, who else was in the band at that time? Was Chubby Collier playing the fiddle, and Jim Williams on the mandolin? Was he with him at that time? Or?
Yeah, Jim came right at the last before I left.
Okay.
But yeah, he didn't carry a bass, just 4 people. Mac, what I was going to tell you, I was, like about 17, just full of questions, asked questions about everything, you know. And I was laid it on him one day, and we were going somewhere, and finally he looked over at me and said, "Red, hell, I don't know everything."
But you thought he did, didn't you?
I must have been wearing him out, you know.
Oh, that's fantastic. Mac Wiseman was a big star in those days.
Oh, yeah.
And he was one of the biggest stars, certainly on the Old Dominion Barn Dance, wasn't he?
Right.
And that really got you out because at nighttime when the sun went down, the coverage of WRVA just blanketed the entire eastern seaboard, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. All up north.
What was it like for you traveling in those other states? I mean, you're a country boy. I mean, you'd never really been out of that region down there around Reidsville, Danville, Virginia too much. And then you're seeing the country. 6 months, you're in 20 different states. And what was that like?
Well, you didn't have a chance to see too much of it because
a lot of it was traveling at night then, I guess, wasn't it?
On the move, yeah. And one more funny story. We were playing over on North Carolina coast. I forgot what town. But we were playing at the theater. And we got inside of the theater, and all it was, Chubby Collier, he was sitting in the front seat. All of a sudden, he just fell over laughing. Just he'd done seen something really funny, you know. And we got down there and looked, and It said, "On stage, Chubby Collier and the Country Boys."
Uh-oh. Was he from that area or something? And he...
No. And Mac, of course, he pulled up in front of the theater and he went inside. And he come back out and we said, "Mac, what'd they say? What'd they say? What made them do this?" He said, "Well, they said they didn't have the right letters to spell my name, so he thought it would be all right just to use that one."
I bet that didn't go over too good with the boss man, did it? Talk a little bit about Chubby Collier. I mean, Chubby's no longer with us. I know he was from up there in Virginia, I think around Wytheville, somewhere in that area, wasn't he?
Yeah, Bristol, in that area.
Yeah, he was a good player. And
really good, yeah.
And a lot of people, not much, people mention his name, but that's about all. He didn't get to make many records or anything.
No, there's something you might know, I don't know, but on the 7 sides that I helped Mac do, Chubby played mandolin on it. And Tommy Jackson played fiddle. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget when we did Love Letters of the Sand, that you know how they'll divide you in the studio to keep the sound from overriding each other.
Right.
Well, they had Tommy Jackson over there in a thing between me and him.
Like a baffle up between you. Mm-hmm.
And you had the earphones on where you could hear, but when he kicked off Love Letters and said, "Dot, dot, dot," Rosam just went up. I mean, just a fog above that thing, And I'll never forget that, to see that white fog go up right there.
Well,
because he was playing, he was bearing down.
Well, he was probably the greatest commercial country fiddler that ever lived, and to get to record with a guy like that, I mean, that's pretty impressive. What do you remember about anything else stand out about that first session that you did? Of course, that was with Mac Wiseman. That was at the Tulane Hotel, downtown Nashville.
Castle, is that Castle
Studios?
Yeah,
Castle Studios, the Tulane Hotel.
And we did 7 sides, and did Love Letters in the Sand, did Waltz You Say For Me, I Haven't Got the Right to Love You, and I think they did twin fiddles on that.
They did.
And that's Chubby and Tommy. Mm-hmm. And Keep on the Sunny Side of Life, and I'm not sure that's ever released.
Yeah, that was the only cut on the session that you took a banjo break on.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I was going to take a break on Love Letters in the Sand, and had it all worked out and everything, and they said, they come in, producer said, "Well, I think that would be better, Mac, if we slowed that down." So they slowed it down, and they got it so slow I couldn't play it. So they turned around to Mac and said, "Mac, you just play runs on the guitar, He said, "Okay," and I run through it 2 or 3 times, and anyway, to make a long story short, they wound up speeding it back up where it was, but they let Mac keep the runs, and I didn't get to play the break.
The one that got away, right?
The one that got away, yeah.
That had to have been a thrill, though, when those records came out and you heard yourself on the record.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Most people have very vivid memories of their first recording session, and it sounds like you do as well.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's amazing how they can take the sound of that old banjo and make it sound like $1 million,
Now, that was the banjo that you had that RB 100 you mentioned?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That you played on that session there. Wow.
Sure is.
You stayed with Mac 6 months, you mentioned.
Yeah.
And worked in 20 different states and got to see a lot of the country. Were you doing some of the driving in those days?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's another story too. Mac, he would drive at night, and he'd cut the heat down to keep from getting sleepy. And he'd go as long as he could, and then he'd say, "Allen, can you drive a while?" I'd say, "Yeah." I'd crawl under the wheel, and the first thing he'd do is reach, get the heat, and pull it up.
Then he'd put you to sleep, right?
then I'd be struggling to stay awake, you know.
Oh boy, traveling in those days, people today don't have any idea what that was like. I
No.
mean, hotels were not as plentiful as they are today. I mean, did you all get motels when you traveled out of town?
Yeah, yeah.
Mac was able to afford that
He
then.
took care of us there.
That's great. Not everybody had that luxury. You know, I've heard about guys that changed their clothes in gas station restrooms, and they got cleaned up there and things like that. They didn't have the money where they could afford that. But it's nice that you had that luxury.
Yeah, Mac, he took care of us and everything in that line,
That's great.
and I didn't have to worry about my money either. It was always there. Now the first time with Eanes, my money wasn't always there, all of it, and
That's tough stuff, especially when you've got bills to pay, banjo
Right.
heads to buy,
yeah,
and paying your rent and that sort of thing.
yeah,
you
right,
know.
yeah.
So you left Mac after 6 months' time, and was the next job with Hack Johnson? Is that right?
Yeah, we were playing a double show with Hack Johnson. Of course, Roy Russell's with Hack Johnson that I'd worked with before. Curly Howard and Joe Phillips,
The Curly played that sock rhythm
guitar, yeah.
guitar, right?
And he was in need of a banjo player. Well, and he offered me the same money I was making, and playing mostly local around Raleigh, North Carolina.
I was going to ask, he was based in Raleigh at that point.
Right,
Okay.
WPTL. But he was doing a 1:30 to 2 o'clock show every day, and plus a morning show, 5:45 to 6. And you had to make them live. So that was tough.
I want to backtrack to your days with Mac Wiseman. Did you do early morning programs with him at WRVA?
No, we did nighttime after the WRVA signed off, the barn dance signed off. We did a show afterwards.
You go back to the radio station and
Yeah,
do that.
mhm,
Okay.
that's right.
All right. All right. But coming back to Hack Johnson then, so you'd have to do those early morning programs, and then you'd have a midday show.
Right.
And then you go out and work at night on top of that.
Exactly.
Was Hack doing his own booking at that time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Talk about Hack Johnson. I mean, that's a name that some people have heard, but a lot of people don't know a lot about him. I mean, I know that he and his brother Clyde worked in Knoxville previously, and they had worked and recorded some with Carl Story in the late 40s.
Right.
But they had gone their separate ways by this point, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not sure if his brother came with him to Raleigh or not, but that's where I joined him. He was just old-time music and bluegrass, but he sung. He had a low voice. He sung bass with us in the quartets, and he had a gift of gab.
He was a good MC then.
Oh, really good, yeah. And he really kept us working. Oh man.
That gift of gab could get you jobs, it could.
Evidently, yeah.
So you were on a salary working with him then.
Right. And $60 a week, and we're playing a drive-in theater just about every night, you know. And he didn't do dances, and then when we recorded there, and he had a record that did real well, then we started doing the parks and all up north, West Grove and
Sunset Park, West Grove,
Sunset, yeah,
West Grove, Pennsylvania.
and the parks up there, and then on weekends, and then driving back for that morning show on Monday morning.
That had to have been tough. So you
Yeah.
did the radio shows 5 days a week.
Yeah.
The WPTF, that was a powerhouse station.
At 50,000, yeah. Sure
Your your coverage really got out there.
Yeah.
How far out would you be able to tour at night to go do a show to allow you enough time to get back in to do that morning program?
Well, he stayed pretty well locally there.
Well,
We
within
didn't-
100 miles maybe of Raleigh?
yeah,
Something like that?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned about making records. I've got one of them right here that I brought along, and there was a bunch of them, but I couldn't lay my hands on them this morning. This is on Colonial Records out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Swanee River, Hack Johnson and the Tennesseans. And on the flip side of this is the Crazy Banjo Medley, featuring Allen Shelton on his banjo. Where were these records made? Were they cut at WPTF?
Yeah, they were.
Now, you did several sides for them. I know these are two. I want to talk to you about Crazy Banjo Medley. That is a medley of a lot of things. I never thought the banjo playing was crazy. Who came up with the title on that?
That was the group, I guess, came up with that.
Yeah. I mean, there's elements of Foggy Mountain Special in there, Double Banjo Blues, Jingle Bells, and a couple other things that I don't recall off the top of my head at the moment. You just put all that together and you made it work.
Well, at that time, see, Curly Howard, he did a lot of rhythm guitar. I mean, chords. He knew the chords and progression and how to put them together and make things work.
He was a phenomenal guitarist.
He was.
I've heard Jimmy Capps at the Grand Ole Opry, part of our staff band for many years. Curly Howard was one of his big heroes,
yeah,
as was your whole band. He used to
yeah.
really enjoy listening to you guys every day on the radio. Y'all influenced him quite a bit, I know.
Yeah, and I got to know Jimmy when we were there in Raleigh. He was working for another band that was on TV on Saturday night, I think, and he was like me. I was 16, 17. He was 15. You know. We were just kids, you know.
Was he asking a lot of questions too?
I'll never forget that as long as I live, him saying that.
I want to ask you about the singing. Now, I know on Swanee River that was a vocal tune. Who sang what parts in that group? Now, you mentioned about Hack singing bass. Did he sing lead as well?
Yeah, he sung lead on that, and Curly sung third part, baritone, and Roy Russell sung tenor.
Okay. Did you sing some with that group?
Yeah, in quartets. But
and when you sang in quartet, what part did you sing?
Tenor.
You sang tenor. Okay.
But see, we did a lot of all gospel programs out of there with Hack Johnson.
Now, when you say a lot of gospel programs, you meaning on the radio or out on personal appearances?
Personal appearances.
Really?
Sung at churches.
Did you really?
And sung at, there was a preacher that had tent revivals, and we worked a lot for him. Reuben Jones was his name.
Now, would you take the whole band and play with your instruments, or would you just play with the guitar?
Yeah,
really?
Whole band.
Really?
Yeah.
How was that received? Because I know some denominations, you know, they kind of frown on music and string band music. Did they accept you all?
Yeah, they sure did.
That's
and
wonderful.
When he'd give an invitation, for people to come down and accept Christ, well, a lot of times we would do the invitation ourselves. And all of this had effect on me as I grew up and everything, and that's why I give credit. That's probably why I'm a Christian today. And
you know where it came from.
Yeah, right.
It's a gift. That's a great thing. You mentioned about Roy Russell. You know, a lot of people in the South, they view the fiddle as the instrument of the devil.
You know? Oh, really?
Have you ever heard that?
No.
Oh, yeah, they do. There's some people that look at it that way. That was one of the worst things you could ever pick up. I was going to ask you if they let Roy play at these services.
Absolutely.
That wasn't a problem then.
No, it wasn't.
Now, will you all get paid a flat fee, or would it take up a love offering, or how would it be with these services?
That was I was getting a straight salary, so I don't know how.
That was Hack's deal. He handled all that.
He handled all that. And I do know that sometimes they took up a offering for us. Mm-hmm. But now, I don't know how much of it he got. And I don't know what his deal was. And as far as singing in churches, sometimes they took over offerings, and there again, I don't know how that worked.
Mm-hmm. Most of those, the all gospel programs, were they done on Sundays then?
Fridays, sometimes Friday night,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes Sunday night.
Were you working as much with Hack Johnson as you were with Mac Wiseman, or more, would you say? Or about the same?
I'd say more, including everything we done, you know. Like at noontime, sometimes he'd have us working for a organization like Elks Club or something like that. We'd go sing for their meeting, you know, at noontime, and then come and run to the station and do 1:30 to 2 o'clock. He really kept us working.
Wow. Now, did you live in Raleigh at that time, or had you moved back to Reidsville?
Raleigh.
You lived in
I
Raleigh.
stayed there. Yeah.
Okay. Those records that you made, you cut those there in the radio station at WPTF, and I know there were some other titles too. One of my favorites is "You Don't Have to Be from the Country."
Right. The other side. That's the other side of Home Sweet Home.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a huge record.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Huge record, Home Sweet Home. And I know that based on the success of that, other people started recording that tune. I know Don Reno and Red Smiley, they did a rush release on that thing as a cover because of the popularity of your record. Where did you learn Home Sweet Home from on the banjo?
Fooling around, and a guy named Benny Gerald, he was fooling with it. He wasn't even a banjo player, but he just loved banjo. And
he had worked with Jim Eanes previously, hadn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he played bass mostly, and but he got fooling with it too. And he gave me the idea, you know, and to use the tuners. Mm-hmm. And
so it was his idea to use the tuners?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did you already had the tuners on your banjo at that point in time, the Scruggs type tuners?
Yeah, because I was already starting to play Scruggs stuff, you know, his tunes.
Were these things that you bought somewhere, or did you?
No, there was this guy that made them, you know, and of course he had drilled holes in the banjo to put them on.
So somebody made those for you then?
Yeah.
Where was that?
In
Burlington?
He was in Burlington, North Carolina, but I can't remember his name.
I bet it was a frightening experience when they started drilling in the peg Eddie with the banjo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Were you there
to
when he did
say
it?
the least, yeah. He had a template, like he took the strings off the banjo and then set the template down over the existing keys,
right,
and then marked the holes to where they're supposed to go.
Well, that's good. It wasn't just free form then.
Right.
Golly, that could have just been a nightmare.
Right.
Wow. Now, was this still on that RB 100 banjo?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure was.
Wow. Now, who was singing on that record of Home Sweet Home?
It was the same ones. Hack was singing lead, and Roy Russell singing tenor, and Curly Howard baritone.
Baritone. Okay. Now I know that
Joe Phillips was playing bass during that time too.
Okay. Now I know that the flip side of that was "You Don't Have to Be from the Country."
Right.
And was Hack leading the verses on that same harmony configuration on that?
Right.
I know you all had one of the first records of "Gone Home," the gospel song that Bill Carlisle had out too.
Yeah, that Joe Phillips sang lead on that, and Hack sung bass.
Okay.
But I didn't sing tenor on it. I think Roy Russell sung tenor on that.
Okay. I was trying to remember what the other side of "Gone Home" was.
I don't remember.
Allen's Dream was an instrumental that you recorded too in that period of time.
Yeah, but that was that wasn't for Hack. That was where the farmhands.
That was later on then? Yeah. Okay. But I know that ended up on...
That was after Hack left.
That ended up on Colonial though.
Yeah, we did it for Colonial.
Do you remember how that deal came about with Hack getting on Colonial Records? They were out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
No, but that all we knew is that's where Andy Griffith started. What it was football, and it was a little small label that this guy owned, and of course that was huge for Andy Griffin. So I guess the guy was looking for more to do with it, you know, and
It was good enough for Andy Griffith. It was good enough for y'all, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about Home Sweet Home, that record for a small label, independent label like Colonial Records, that really got your name out there. Do you all have any idea how well that record sold?
No, I don't. All I knew was it got him a lot of work, and I guess that's what you want.
Now this would have been 1955, if my memory's right. Does that sound right?
Let's see. 53, 54. Yeah, I guess that'd be right. Because I was 17, turning 18, I think, when I was with him.
Okay.
Because he featured me for a long time, calling me the 17-year-old banjo player.
You can only do that for a year.
That's right.
Unless you start lying pretty good.
Yeah.
Was it the same experience working with Hack as it was with Mac in terms of the maintenance on that banjo, with those banjo heads breaking all the time? In that period of time, they didn't really seem to be able to refine those heads, did they? I mean,
no.
To where something got a little bit better, where you may not be breaking them as often.
They just, when you took them outside, they just break. You know, they would get damp, and then when they dry out, they drew up. You know, and they would break.
So
there wasn't no way to stop it. Don't guess.
The dampness was the biggest enemy of those calfskin heads, then, wasn't it?
And when the plastic heads came out, of course, I was leery of them to start with. Most everybody was, and so over the skin heads were 5-star Rogers. That was the best. Mm-hmm. And then the plastic ones was Weather King. And I think they had the name right because the weather didn't affect it near as much. It did some, but not near as much.
Wow. Now, talking about Hack Johnson, you mentioned about maybe going up into Pennsylvania. Was that about as far up as you got with him to the north? Did you go west much with them, or?
No. Hack Johnson, he had a drinking problem, real bad.
I'd heard that.
Yeah, and so there at the end, when we was working for him, the radio station, only time in history, I reckon, that the radio station fired him and kept the band. So we changed names of the band and just kept right on going.
And the name of the band became the Farm Hands.
Farm Hands.
Correct? Okay. How long did you actually work with Hack before that, before he was let go there at the radio station? Any idea?
No, I don't. I just don't remember.
Okay, so the Farm Hands get going there.
Yeah,
and
that's when we did the Allen's Dream, and you had the same band except Hack. You know, had Curly Howard, Roy Russell, and Joe Phillips, and myself.
Who was doing the lead singing in those days?
Joe was doing most of it. He sung a lot like Acuff, and he was a good singer.
Yeah. Is he still around?
No, he passed away. He after all of that happened over there, and we split up. And I went to Jim and Jesse, and Roy. He got an engineering degree and started work at a radio station, and
Curly Howard.
Curly Howard went to DJing, and I think Joe Phillips he come to Wilmeline Stoney at the Opry.
How long did the Farm Hands stay together after Hack left?
Not too long. I'd say that was less than a year or thereabouts, because the WPTF had put in for a TV channel, but there was a small radio station in town that put in for it first. And of course, WPTF thought they would get it because they were the powerhouse, but they didn't.
Uh-oh.
And so they spent a lot of money trying, so they come to us and told us that we're going to have to cut your money. You know, we got to try to make some of this back. We're not going to get TV. And so they already had us lined up when we'd be on television, you know, how many shows, how much we'd get paid, the whole thing. You know, they really had big plans, but none of it materialize. And so once they cut our station salary out, then we had to find something else.
So they were paying you a salary to be there on the station.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if the bookings and the money was as good after Hack left the picture, because he was such a great salesperson, obviously, from what you said.
Well, we made a little more money
Did
after
you?
he left. Yeah. Because we was on four-way split,
As opposed to,
a salary.
yeah, In that period of time, with that Hack Johnson period, that was a very important time in your playing, because you were really learning a lot of different types of tunes, and you were hearing things differently, you were trying things differently, and you could hear it in those records, in those colonial records. You were really coming into your own as a banjo player, and it was your own style at that point in time, as opposed to a lot of people just copying everything that Earl Scruggs did. I mean, obviously he's your hero, and you were certainly influenced, and you probably bought every record that he put out, you know, but you had your own twist on things.
Well, I found out early on that I couldn't play like Earl. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't find his licks, and when I did them, they didn't sound like him, you know. And so, and the same with Reno. I loved Reno's playing, and but I couldn't do his like him either. So between the two and what little I knew, it created a style.
So those were your two biggest influences were Don Reno and Earl Scruggs.
Yeah.
I know, didn't the Farmhands, or was it Hack Johnson and the Tennesseans that played on the Old Dominion Barn Dance in Richmond some?
Yeah, both.
Both
We
acts?
both did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reno and Smiley had just gotten back together at that point in time.
Right.
In '55, and they were very popular on there.
Yeah.
What was it like being around those guys?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. They were hoots to be around, you know. That Old Dominion Barn Dance wasn't like the opera. When you were on it, all the groups sit out on the stage, on the bench, all the way around. As it came your time to play, you just got up and walked up to the mics and played, you know, and then sit back down, you know. So Don Reno, he loved to do Mule Skinner blues and play the guitar and sing it, you know. So every time he'd do that, he'd get me to play banjo behind him. And of course, I'd drive it hard as I could, you know.
Because he'd wear it out.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you all get to play much together in those days? I mean, did you sit down, two of you like we're sitting here, and play banjo back and forth and exchange ideas?
Not that much. We'd listen to them rehearse, and they'd listen to us rehearse, but to actually sit down and go back and forth, we didn't.
You never did that then?
Mm-hmm. There was another thing happened there that might be a point of interest. Wimley and Stoney were there, and Josh Graves was playing dobro for Wimley and Stoney. And he come around one Saturday night and said, "I've just landed a job with Flat and Scruggs." Said, and he'd get me over in the corner and have me play all of Earl's stuff so he could learn his breaks and stuff.
How about that?
I mean, several hours we did that, you know, as we had time to do it.
Wow.
And
they were playing some good music too, Wimley and Stoney.
oh, absolutely.
That was a real high point in their career in those Richmond days for them as
right.
well.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't carry a banjo with them at that point in time, did they? I mean,
I don't think so.
I know they had a banjo at different points, but I didn't recall them having a banjo player with them then.
But I got to help Josh with that. Now, I always was glad about that. Yeah. Oh, there's one more thing happened with Eames. Of course, we ain't got to it yet.
Yeah, we're getting there. Hold that thought. Okay? Don't lose that thought.
You ever heard of Lonnie Irvin?
Oh, yeah, pinball machine.
I was a banjo player on that.
Yeah. It was a big record. It's a big, big record.
Yeah.
The farmhands, the money just wasn't there. You said they cut your things back there at the radio
Yeah.
station, you know. So you just decided that,
Roy and myself went back to Jim Eanes there at that point.
okay. Now, where was Jim at that point? Was he in
Martinsville.
He was
He
in
had
Martinsville, Virginia.
He had moved to Martinsville.
Okay. What did Jim have going for him at that point in time? I mean, was he still doing the same type thing, doing daily radio programs and doing a lot of dances?
Yeah. Oh, there's one more little spot in there. When Hack Johnson got fired, they didn't hire us, say, for a month or 6 weeks. And me and Roy went to work for Homer Bryharper in Raleigh, who had a dance band. And we worked for him a little while.
Now, when you say a dance band, what do you mean by a dance
Regular
band?
country band, you know, steel guitar, straight guitar. No.
When did you start playing a lot of those pop tunes? Some people might call them jazz tunes and things like that. I mean, I'm thinking about When You're Smiling and Bye Bye Blues and Lady of Spain and Whispering and those tunes. I mean, that's about the time you started learning some of those tunes. Am I right on that? In that
Yeah.
Hack Johnson period there?
Well, there again, I had Curly Howard to show me the chords and and kind of hum it, tell me how it went. And they always said, Shelton, why you play show tunes? Well, if you look at Earl's, his first instrumentals, they were show tunes. Farewell Blues, you know, and all those, till he got to writing his own, you know. They were show tunes. So I didn't see nothing wrong with it, you know.
Did you learn those tunes from records, or were they just melodies that you knew in your head because you'd heard those tunes around being played? Or?
The first time was with Jim Eanes. There was a band of ukuleles that had a radio show on WBTM, and they played all this kind of stuff on ukuleles.
How many were in the band? This sounds interesting. I've never heard of a band of ukuleles.
There were 3
before.
ukuleles and a bass, upright bass.
Well, that's a picture right there.
And different size ukuleles, you know. And of course, they played all this Little Rock Getaway, all this type stuff, you know. And I got a lot of it from them, and they were real good. I'd go up and sit and listen to, you know, to their show if we were in town.
Didn't you tell me that Lady of Spain, you had learned that from hearing it played at a drive-in theater or something once? That the melody to the tune Lady of Spain.
Yeah, we'd play at a drive-in theater, and we'd play there every week, doing a talent contest.
And this is Hack Johnson, or
Yeah, Hack Johnson.
Okay.
And of course, the crowd would come out, you know, and people would participate in the talent contest to win the prize, you know. But every week at the intermission, where the time for you to go get your hamburger, they would play this Lady of Spain every week. And it was an orchestra, and they played it fast. Da, 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 da. And it, of course, when I started fooling with it then, it stuck in my head, you know.
You'd heard it so much.
The tune did, you know, stuck in my head. Then I started messing with it. I had to change the time to where I could play it on the banjo. And that's how that all came about. And
I was hearing that being played over the loudspeakers at a drive-in theater.
Yeah, right.
Was that in Raleigh? Or was that...
Yeah, we were working out of Raleigh, and that was north of Raleigh there, some little town. I can't think of the name of it now.
How about that? Well, we were talking about Jim Eanes, and you went back to work with Jim, and he was in Martinsville, Virginia at that point in time.
Right.
What did he have going for him at that point in time? Was he doing daily radio programs then?
Yeah. He was a DJ there, plus he did a daily live show.
Now, was that WHEE
Yeah.
in Martinsville?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we had Friday and Saturday was the dances, and sometimes Wednesday, and have been Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday dances.
Wow. Now, how long were those dances?
Till midnight.
Like 4 hours, 8 to midnight? Is that what they were?
Yeah.
Where were these held? Like community halls and schools? And
Warehouses, tobacco warehouses. Of course, VFW halls where Friday and Saturday night was. And you talk about being in practice. You were in practice if you played that much, you know. On the regular dances on Friday, you'd get a break, like 15 minutes a night. But on Saturday, we didn't. You took a break one at a time. You didn't. The music did stop.
Wow.
And you get 15 minutes, all right, but you did it one at a time. And of course, Jim now, he always, on the Friday and Saturday night, he hired a lady piano player that just played rhythm.
Who was that? Do you remember her name?
Lula Mabes. Lula Mabes. Yeah.
Lula Mapes?
Mabes.
Mabes, okay. M-A-B-E-S. Lula
Yeah,
Mabes, okay.
And Cliff Ragsdale would come in and help too. He'd play bass or guitar and sing.
Okay. And we say guitar, just acoustic guitar?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything was acoustic.
Mm-hmm. Now, did Jim have you on a salary at that point, or?
Yeah.
What were you making at that time, do you recall?
Around 60, 65, so 60, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And
was he doing all his own booking at that time?
yeah.
So it was yourself, Roy Russell on the fiddle. There was Arnold Terry in there with him at that point?
Yeah, Arnold Terry and Jim, and then with the extra people on some of the dances.
Okay. Did he carry a bass player with him?
Arnold.
Arnold played the bass then. Okay.
Yeah, and
so he
then
went back and forth between guitar and bass sometimes.
Yeah, and then when we'd record, Arnold would play rhythm guitar. He'd try to take Curly Howard's sock rhythm. He got pretty good. You couldn't hardly tell the difference.
Yeah, he had a good lick on the guitar.
Yeah.
So the songs that you all were doing on these dances, were you doing mainly the current country songs of the day? I mean,
Exactly.
Jim would sing everything that Carl Smith and Ray Price and Webb Pierce, and Ernest Tubb, and all those people had out at that time.
Yeah.
Did you say he was doing DJ work at that time as well?
Yeah.
Wow. Now, how far out would you all get at night? I mean, go do a show if you were working in Martinsville, because that wasn't a very powerful station, was it?
No, we didn't 50, 60 miles as far out as we went. And but we didn't have to make the morning thing, morning show, like we'd had in Raleigh. Oh, one thing needs to be said there. When I was in Raleigh and when Hack Johnson left and the band stayed, the first thing that the program director said, I want you to record the morning show. And it was Hack that didn't want to record it all along, and we thought it was a station that wouldn't let us,
So that was answered prayer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You didn't have to get up with the chickens in the morning to go in there and do that live program.
Yeah, half asleep,
Yeah, wow. So that was a good thing then, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
When you went with Jim, did you all ever get beyond that 50, 60 miles out? I mean, did you come up to like work Sunset Park and those places?
Yeah, a few times, yeah.
But would you go down into Carolina some, I guess?
Yeah. Not very often, because we had those dances that he had to take care of.
Did he? I guess how many people would he pull into something like that in those days and times? What was your crowds like?
Well, Friday and Saturday it was always packed. The VFW hall.
And was that the same VFW hall every time that you worked? Where was that at? In Martinsville.
Martinsville.
Martinsville. Okay.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? A couple hundred people, something like that?
Yeah, 200, 250. Yeah.
Did you ever get the sense that he might have been burning himself out because he was there so long and worked so much in that area?
Well, all of his kin people and everybody was there. His dad was a banjo player, Uncle Bob, and really good old man. I loved him, and but he would come to the dances and bring his banjo, and I thought, oh boy, good, I'll get a break. I'll let him play this next set. But he wouldn't hear to that. No, sir, we both had to play.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Couldn't even get a bathroom break in with him on the stage. You both had to play all the time.
So some of the sets, I timed one of them, and it went 30 minutes. The square sets. It's according to what your caller did. How long you had to play.
Who did the calling? Did you have a caller? Did Jim employ a caller?
Yeah, he hired callers.
He didn't do any of that himself then?
No.
Okay. The rhythm had to have really been something in that band, because you guys were just playing all the time. And I learned years ago from playing music, we worked a few dances, but not many, just very few. But that can really tighten up a band in a hurry when you're playing those fiddle tunes and those instrumentals for people to dance for, and you're playing, 10, 12 minutes for a dance. You feel like your arm's going to drop off, from strumming the guitar or sawing the fiddle or whatever, just you were not getting a break.
Yeah. Well, there was one good thing about it, though. If you had a note or two you wanted to try, nobody cared if you missed it.
And you could play the same song again later on.
And you was going to play it again or next time around anyway, so try it again, And so you could try stuff that you wouldn't normally have done. If you was on a radio station playing, you wouldn't have tried that note, because you wasn't sure of it.
Jim Eanes was a wonderful man. He was a great singer.
Great singer.
A wonderful songwriter as well. Were you around him when he wrote songs?
No, not that much. No, Arnold was. Arnold helped him with some. Mm-hmm. He never got credit, but he did. Mm-hmm. He helped him some. Mm-hmm.
Most of the records that you all made were actually cut there at the radio station in Martinsville, weren't they?
Yeah, and Louis Compton engineered them. He was just a DJ like Jim.
Was he on the same station there? Mm-hmm. I know he wrote that tune that Reno and Smiley had, that big record with Sawing on the Strings.
Exactly. He was a good songwriter.
Yeah.
He had another one was a big hit called, Hank Thompson did, called I've Run Out of Tomorrows.
Yeah.
Spent my last one today.
I remember that song.
Yeah, and myself and Roy helped him do the tape to send to, the dub to send in.
To as a demo to send to Hank Thompson.
Yeah.
My goodness. I want to pull this out. Have you seen this? Do you have that?
I've got a copy.
This is a wonderful collection. This is all of the masters that Jim Eanes did for Starday Records. And I'm looking here on the back side of this. There 18 and 17, if my math's right, 35 titles, and you're on just about everything in here. And some of these were so important and to the genre. Your Old Standby. I mean, that's one of the songs that Jim is so well remembered for.
Yeah.
Now, you had a pedal attachment on your banjo. I want you to talk about that. Allen Shelton goes uptown for you and me.
No, I was just trying to play his slow music and trying to figure out a way, for a banjo to play his slow music. And I loved steel guitar anyway, so I came up with this idea. And
the pedal steel was pretty new at that time. It had only been around for maybe a couple years at the most at that time.
Yeah, and I can tell you how it worked, but it almost made you learn to play over again.
We'll talk about it. This is important.
Well, you had your tuners, D, like Scruggs had, Right.
You tuned the banjo down into D tuning.
To a D tuning. Okay. And then this pedal you had would pull it back to G, both strings at the same time.
And when you say pedal, was it an arm attachment on the guitar?
It was just like something like you mash it with your arm, yeah.
Almost like the what do you
like
call
a
that?
tremolo thing.
Yeah, tremolo bar on electric guitar.
Yeah, except this was up the top of the banjo where you could hit it with your wrist. And
And this was a
that
homemade device that you had come up with on your own.
yeah, I didn't make it. I had it made.
Oh,
The same guy made it that made the tuners in Burlington.
Had he done this before?
No, I just told him how I thought it would work, and he came up with it.
Okay. So you would mash on this thing, this bar type thing, and that was attached to what? The tailpiece?
Tailpiece.
Okay. And then what would happen when you pushed on this?
It would raise the second and third string back to G tuning. In other words, you run down to D.
Right.
You're in D tuning all the way across. And then you hit this thing and it raises the second and third string back to G tuning. In other words, if you rake the banjo open in D and then hit this, that would bring it back to G. Okay, so that, if you think now, that made anywhere you laid your finger across that banjo, it made it two chords, either up or down. It was two different chords. And like I said, it was like learning to play all over again. I've got a guy sent me some stuff the other day that off of radio shows that I did with Jim, where I was trying to use this thing and work it. There's a lot of mistakes, but it sure sounded different.
It sounds, it's amazing, this thing. I've heard you say in the past that it was wonderful, but it broke a lot of strings.
Yeah, I never could get it perfected to where it wouldn't break strings.
Because, I mean, we talk about a pedal, but it wasn't like when you think in the terms of a pedal steel guitar where you're actually pushing on something on the floor. There was none of that then.
No.
It was all controlled right there on the top of the banjo.
And if you wasn't going to use the thing, then you had to run your tuners back to G and stay off of it. In other words, it caused you to play with your wrist up more. Like I used to get accused of being deformed trying to play like that.
So this arm, this thing that you would press on with your hand or your arm, that was behind the tailpiece then? Or
it was made into the tailpiece.
It was made into the tailpiece. What I meant to say was it was behind the bridge.
Yeah, behind the bridge.
It was behind the bridge.
Yeah.
How far up off the head would this thing sit?
A little bit higher than your arm rest.
Okay.
Well, for normally your banjo. See, I took it off, so that gives you more room to go down.
How long did you have this thing on the banjo?
I don't know. At least a year. And did several records with it.
I was just getting ready to say, your old standby was one. I was listening to this not long ago. No Need to Be So Lonely, that was another one. Settle Down, Two Hearts Are Better Than One. I think it was on all those that you had that on there. Have you ever thought about trying to resurrect this idea? And
No, I think it's too late.
You think so? You can get a patent on this thing, Allen.
Yeah.
It sure sounded good on those records. I don't know. Did you break any strings when you were cutting the songs that you had to do it over again, or that you recall?
No, there again, I done learned the secret of putting graphite where the strings went so it'd slide easy, not wear them in two so quick.
Boy, you were at a lot of obstacles. You're dealing with a skinhead on the banjo. You got this pedal attachment on there.
Yeah.
And breaking strings. Boy, it was just high maintenance to play that instrument, wasn't it? Boy, oh boy. Bending the Strings was another tune that came out of that period. That's one of the tunes that you wrote and that you're quite famous for. Is there any story about how that tune came to be written?
No, I wrote that when I was in North Carolina. But
and when you say North Carolina, in the Hack Johnson days?
Yeah, or Hack Johnson or Farmhands days. It's long in there. And but I never started featuring it, or I just played it around some, and so Jim, he decided we'd record it for Star Day, and did a couple of instrumentals. Banjo, I think, was one, and that really is in other words, Uncle Bob Eanes.
Yeah.
He actually had words to Banjo, so that's not the same tune that Scruggs plays.
Right.
It sounds a lot like it, but it's not.
It's very close to Sail Away Ladies or Sally Ann. It's real close to that. Round Town Gals, that was another one that you all did.
Yeah.
It's basically Buffalo Gals, I guess.
Yeah.
And Fiddle on the Hill, that was another one of the instrumentals. Did you sing on those Star Day recordings with Jim?
No. Only the quartet. There's a album of quartet numbers that I got to do tenor on, but on the trios, Arnold Terry always sung tenor, and Roy Russell sung third part.
Talk about Roy Russell. He was always one of my favorite fiddle players, and you barely hear his name mentioned, but he, like yourself, those were the key instrumental ingredients in that Jim Eanes sound for those many years there in the late 50s.
Well, you got to think about it this way. The fiddle and the banjo were the only two lead instruments. And whatever Jim sung, we had to take a break on, And I've got record tapes of where I took a break on Shenandoah Valley Waltz. And, and Roy did the same thing. We just played whatever he sung. You had to do it because you're the only one, He couldn't back up and say, no, I don't believe I can play that.
You had to learn. You had to learn in a hurry.
Right, yeah.
What kind of a guy was Roy Russell?
Really nice guy, really nice. He more or less took me under his wing and kind of, see, I was just 16 when I took the job, so.
First time.
First time.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of took me under the wing. I guess you'd say kept me out of trouble, maybe.
I know he played good fiddle. He played just good, clean commercial fiddle. It just seemed like the two of you were just like salt and pepper in that band. You just worked so well together, and it just seemed like everything that each of you played behind Jim Eanes was right. It all worked to me.
Well, I didn't realize how really good he was till later years. After, I had left and was doing other things. Then I got to hearing some of his playing, how good it was.
I know he passed away in 1964. Young man, wasn't all that old,
Yeah.
What caused his passing? Any recollection?
Well, I never did know for sure, but he had a birthmark on his tongue that went down his throat. And I'm not sure. I know he had trouble with that.
Well, he died way too young. I wish more people knew about Roy Russell, but they can listen to his music and hear his fiddle playing. It spoke for itself, that's for sure.
Yeah, he had an old black Hoff fiddle.
Mm-hmm. That's what he
I
played.
thought maybe you'd be interested.
Oh
in
yeah,
that.
those are good fiddles. They make good country fiddles, good bluegrass fiddles.
Yeah.
There was another guy that worked with Jim in those days, Cub McGee.
Yeah, he
Fiddle
would
player.
he would come in and do. They would work out the twin fiddles.
Mm-hmm. Did he work the road with you or on shows?
No. He'd just come in and help record.
He was a local guy that worked around.
He was from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, or
Okay.
near there.
What was his real name? Do you remember? I mean, Cub. That sounds like that would be a nickname.
I have no idea. He's always Cub McGee. I can remember him because he had a deformity. He didn't have no neck. He was like this all the time. I don't know how he kept his fiddle, but he did. And he's a really nice guy.
The guitar player that you said came in and worked with you some on those dances, Frank.
Ragsdale, Cliff
Ragsdale, excuse me.
Yeah.
Cliff Ragsdale.
Now, he did some road shows with us. He would play bass on the road shows.
Mm-hmm. And he played electric guitar on some of those records, didn't he? Or was that?
No, that wasn't him.
Who was that did that? I was thinking Frank somebody. Was there a Frank Burroughs that worked with you some?
Could have been.
I was trying to remember.
I can't remember. I see
Frank Burroughs played electric guitar on There'll Come a Time and I Gotta Know.
Yeah.
That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, he was from Reedsville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Did he work any shows with you, or
No,
just
recording?
Just did the session. Did the session. Did Jim ever have the interest to try and get out and take it to another level, or did he just seem to be comfortable there and with all he was doing?
I don't know if. I know he was offered a spot at Wheeling once, but he didn't take it. I don't know if he was afraid to try it or what. I really never did know about that.
Did you all ever make inroads here to Nashville? Did you ever come here for anything?
No, because we did all the recording there.
Yeah, I know that you sent the tapes to Starday.
Yeah.
You cut them right there in the radio station and
Right.
sent them in, you know.
Now, he did one session in Raleigh. It is, I believe it's Your Old Stand By and Don't Stop Now.
Yeah.
I think it
Right.
was on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's Curly Howard for sure playing rhythm on that.
Right. And you, so you all came to Raleigh to do that. You just
Yeah,
came there to record there.
Right.
Okay. I know at one point you went to Washington, D.C. and
Yeah.
did some recording for Blue Ridge Records.
Yeah.
For Don Owens that owned that label. And I've got a copy of this single here on Don's label, Blue Ridge Records, and that's where you got Lady of Spain on the record right there.
Mm-hmm.
Your name's on the record, Banjo by Allen Shelton, Banjo solo by Allen Shelton. And that's the record that introduced that tune to the world of bluegrass music right there. Long Journey Home's on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
Any memories of coming to Washington and recording?
Oh,
Don
yeah,
Owens?
I remember that.
Talk about that.
First of all, there was a session going on when we got to the studio, and I can't remember the guy's name or anything was recording, but they needed a rhythm guitar player and a fiddle player for this one song. And it turned out to be I'd Rather Be in Some Dark Hollow. And
Luke Gordon.
is that who it was?
Yeah, he was a guy that Don Owens was producing at that time. Yeah.
Well, that's the first time I'd ever heard that song, and I thought it was a really good song, you know. But as far as I can remember, Roy Russell and Arnold both played on that.
How about that?
And then we went in to do ours, you know, after he got through.
Mm-hmm. Did you get up into the D.C. area much?
No, not that much.
That was pretty far out. I mean, distance-wise,
Right.
from Martinsville.
We just
those
went
days.
up there to record, yeah.
And the Lady of Spain thing, that, if my memory serves me, that was just kind of like a last-minute thought, wasn't it?
Yeah, like a fluke.
And the fluke turned out to be the best remembered thing of the whole batch, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 20 minutes we had left in a 3-hour session. And so they said, well, we got 20 minutes. If you got an instrumental that you could do right quick without too much trouble, you know. So Jim asked me if I had anything. I said, well, I've got this. And it was Lady of Spain. And I played through it once. And I'm not even sure if all the band had played through it with me up to this point.
Yeah, because you hadn't been doing this on your radio shows or featuring us on the dances then, had you?
So I had just learned it, you know. And so I think we went through it maybe twice and then cut it. And there's mistakes like crazy in the record, but it wasn't so bad they wanted to do it over, you know. They took it like it was.
How about that?
But
Well,
anyway, it turned out to be a big record for Jim.
It really did, and that record got distributed. I mean, you still see copies of that single turn up from time to time.
Yeah.
You know? So,
And it was, I've got to tell you this little story. You'll like it. I went with Jim and Jesse, and I think Jim had given me 15 or 20, those little singles like that. And I had them with me. And we come to Nashville, and we went up on Jim and Jesse. They went up on Ralph Emery's show, midnight, you know, all night. And of course, when I walked in and they introduced me, well, he lit right up, Ralph did, and I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble because they're the ones, that should be there getting the attention, not me, But anyway, he asked me, aren't you the one that did Lady of Spain? Yeah. Do you have a copy? I sure would like to have a copy of that, he said. So I went down to the car and got one and brought it back up there. I told him, I said, now this belongs to Jim Eanes. It doesn't mean anything to me. I said, it won't make me no money either way, because it's his contract, Well, doggone, he wore that thing out.
Did he really? He played it a lot.
He played it a lot. He loved that record, yeah.
That's pretty impressive because at that time, Ralph Emery was the most powerful disc jockey in the country.
He sure was, yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And for him to get behind a record like that and to play it, and the fact that he knew you before you ever got there.
Yeah.
He'd heard the record somewhere.
Yeah, he had, yeah.
My goodness. Boy, that's a great story. I love that.
But Jim and Jesse, they both took it real well, I tried to make it low key as I could, because they're the ones that were there to push a record, not me,
Well, you being with them may have helped them more than they realized at the time.
But he played their records really good too. So
I wanted to mention when you were working with Jim Eanes, because I want to talk about Jim and Jesse, obviously. That's a very important chapter in your career. But I know, I've heard stories, I've heard you tell this, that Don Reno and Reggie Smiley were on television up there in Roanoke. And of course, you were on the air doing daily programs there every day down there in Martinsville. Now, how far is it from Martinsville to Roanoke? 50 miles?
50 miles.
Okay. Yeah. Y'all were listening to each other.
Yeah, evidently. I listened to them a lot. If I was up in the morning, they had an hour TV show.
How could you avoid watching that? I mean, it was a great program.
Yeah, it was.
And then they heard you all down there, and he would listen to you. And I mean, he did a cover of your record of Home Sweet Home in 1955.
Yeah, well, now, he had just left Arthur Smith at that time. And in other words, him and Red Smiley hadn't joined together yet. They hadn't formed the band. And he said that King Records called him and asked him had he heard this record, Home Sweet Home. And he said no. He said, well, go to the music store and buy it. And said, get me a copy as quick as you can get it here, as near to it as you can get. And Reno told me this himself and apologized. I said, well, you don't have to apologize,
What was he apologizing for?
For covering that record, And I said, no, you don't have to apologize. He said, well, I didn't play it like you anyway. I didn't even have tuners on my banjo. I had to reach around up here and mash the strings.
Yeah, I know. He told me about doing that one time, how he would reach up there to the peg head and pull the strings up and push them down and that sort of thing with his fingers.
Fingers, yeah.
Golly.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how I ever got it done.
I don't know either. And I know he overdubbed all the parts on that record, too. He overdubbed every instrument, and he overdubbed all the singing parts. He told me he spent better part of a day there in Charlotte at the studio doing that. I think it was a WBT where he did that,
Yeah, but I don't know why he felt like he needed to apologize, but he didn't. He didn't need to.
It's nice that he did. But that's the kind of guy Reno was.
Yeah.
I know there were other tunes you were featuring and he picked up on. Like, wasn't Under the Double Eagle another one that you'd been playing?
Yeah, I came up with, And next thing you know, it came out on King Record too. But, he played it his own way.
Where had you learned Under the Double Eagle?
Just fooling around.
Because you'd heard there were marches. That was a march, that people had done that. Like, I don't know if John Philip Sousa, I think, may have had the Marine Band or somebody like that, I'm thinking, may have done that at some point in time,
Oh, I used to play all kinds of stuff like that. Played on the Double Eagle, played Washington Lee Swing.
Reno cut that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and he also put out a record, A Lady of Spain. It was different than what you had done. But it was just he and John Palmer with the banjo and the bass. If you ever heard that.
No, I never heard it.
That was one of the rarest records they did. It was never on an LP. It was only one of the few things they did was only on a single. But it's clear where they learned that, was from hearing you,
Well, I always thought a lot of him, and his sons told me that later on that if Don liked you, he'd cut your hair. He was a barber. And sure enough, up to Richmond one time, he invited me out to his house, and he did give me a haircut.
How'd he do?
He did real good.
He didn't peel you too bad, did he?
No, Of course, I didn't need one real bad, but he done a good job.
That's wild. That's funny. How did the job come about with Jim and Jesse?
Well, there again, we were playing those dances and playing, and we'd done been together a while, and records were doing fair, and he was having a hard time getting distribution on Starday Records.
Jim was.
Yeah, he could get it to the radio stations. The Stardays was, but they weren't getting them to the record stores. Mm-hmm. In other words, when Your Old Standby came out, it was #1 in Richmond, Virginia, on all the country station there, but you couldn't buy it in town. It wasn't there, and stuff like this was going on. Anyway, they called me and offered me this job, and either I was making 60 or 65, and they offered me 75 starting.
Now, had you been acquainted with them prior to that?
Just in passing. Mm-hmm. I just heard some of their music.
Bobby Thompson was playing banjo with them before you came in.
Right. I need to tell you this too, I guess. We were in Martinsville. We were fixing to go in there, and Louis Compton called us in what do you call it? Where the knobs are, control room. Control room, and said, "Have y'all heard this?" And he turned loose the record of Jim and Jesse's, "I'll Never Love Nobody But You." And boy, they were burning it up on that record, And so we started right away to learn that song, because we could do that. Mm-hmm. But that was some of the stuff that I started listening to their material in that way.
I got to ask you this real quick before we get on to Jim and Jesse. Another thing came to mind was the record of Log Cabin in the Lane, which is one of the most famous records you did with Jim. Yeah. I think Jim told me you had the idea for the arrangement for that.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't sing it in G, but it played well in G on the banjo.
Yeah, I couldn't play it in F. Not very well. And he could sing it F's where it suited him, So we did one of the Curly Howard modulations, and made it work. Mm-hmm. And it turned out real well.
That was one of the big hits, if you will, for Jim on Starday.
Yeah, see, Home Sweet Home had almost the same thing in it. Mm-hmm. They sung it in C, and I played it in D. Mm-hmm.
So talking about Jim and Jesse, you had heard that record of theirs of "I'll Love Nobody But You," and you were barely acquainted with him. You said in passing. Yeah. Did you know Bobby Thompson at all?
Not at all. No.
You didn't know him. Okay.
No.
But they called you then, and were they in Valdosta at that point? Valdosta, Georgia. Mm-hmm. That's a long way from Martinsville, Virginia, and Reidsville, North Carolina.
Yeah. Well, I was living in Martinsville at that time. But I thought this was strange. Now, I don't mean this in no bad way, but I told Jim I was leaving. I said, "I'll give you 2 weeks' notice. I'll work 2 weeks." And told him I was going to work with Jim and Jesse. He said, "What are they paying you?" I said, "They start me at 75. and go to 80 after if I work out. And he said, I could have paid you that. And here I am, been there, 2 years, If he could have, why wouldn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, because you really didn't go up that high in your salary that whole time you were with him then.
No.
He really didn't give you a raise then, did he?
But I thought that was strange, him saying that.
Because you started in there at 65 and been there that whole time.
Yeah, I was, it kind of irritated me, because why would he say that? And why would he do that, But anyway, I went ahead and I took the job, and needless to say, it worked out.
So they were in Valdosta at that time.
Yeah.
So you moved down there, and what were they doing at that time? They were doing TV, weren't they?
Yeah, big time. They had Albany, Georgia, Monday night. The way they say it down there, Albany.
Albany.
Yeah. And then Dothan, Alabama, Tuesday night. Then we would leave Tuesday night and drive into Pensacola, Florida, and tape a TV show for Saturday night. And they had this when I went there, when I went to work for them. And plus, then that opens you up from Wednesday morning, say, the rest of the week till Monday. You could go and play anything you wanted to play, north, south, east, or west.
Were they playing anything in Valdosta? That's just where they were living at the time?
That's just where they were living.
Okay.
They had a dance there, but it evidently had folded.
Mm-hmm.
But they were, I don't think it had started.
While we were changing tapes, we thought about a couple of things we wanted to touch base on before we got too far into the Jim and Jesse era. And one of them was that banjo that you played on all those Jim Eames records that you later played with Jim and Jesse, and that was a Gibson archtop banjo. Talk about that instrument.
It was a RB 250, what they call it, bow tie. I guess I was the only one in history to ever play one, professionally and that long. But it was a real good banjo. I really liked it. How it came about, sometime during the Raleigh, North Carolina stay, I think it was after Hack Johnson, that they started making this banjo again. And a friend of mine went to the music store and ordered one. They didn't even have it stock. He just went and ordered it, and it came in, and as soon as it come in, he come straight to the radio station and brought it, said, I want you to take this, set it up, and get it playable, and play it a couple of weeks, kind of break it in. So I did. Oh man, that's so far above what I was playing, So I did, and when he come to get it, while I was doing that, he took my old one, and he was fooling around with it at home, And when it come time to trade back, he said, I like your old one really well. Said, is there some way we could work out some kind of trade? Well, that just suited me, that's a step up, I was wanting better, because this was a 150 that he was playing, and the one without the tone ring. They looked the same, but it didn't have a tone ring. But anyway, I gave it, we worked it out. I think I paid him $15 a month. Something like that, a payment schedule that I paid. And even after that, and for as long as I was there, when he got ready to change the strings on the old banjo, he'd bring the banjo in 2 sets of strings, and I would change them on his, and he said, that the other set, that's for you, for yours. And I thought, and his name was Allen Ferguson. And as far as I know, he's still in Raleigh, North Carolina.
You still got your banjo?
I think so. Somebody, I believe Marshall Stevenson told me he still had it, still had that 150.
How about that? So that was a brand new instrument when you got it then?
Yeah,
The 250, the RB 250 with
Yeah.
the bow tie inlay then.
It had just come in, yeah. And
Now, did that have the tuner, the Scruggs tuners in there? Or did
no,
you have to get
I
them?
had to get those.
You had to get those bored in there.
Yeah.
Did you take it back to the same guy in Burlington to do that for you?
Yeah, and then later on years, another guy made me another set. Was much better. Charles Pullen. He made a set. He was an aircraft designer or something like that. He's from Georgia, but he made a set and put on mine. Was really good.
And
That's the set I still got.
And that's the banjo that had the pedal attachment on it, obviously.
Right,
That's the one you cut all the records with Jim Eanes with. Then.
Exactly.
Did you play that banjo on Allen's Dream on that farmhand stuff? Or do you recall?
From the sound of it, that sounds like a 150.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because it's not near as, don't have near the tone that the last one had.
So you ended up making an even trade on the banjos, but then you traded instruments, but then you paid this guy $15 a month. How long did that go on?
I don't know, but the new banjo was like, I think $350 or something like that. And whatever we worked out, the difference, that's how I had to pay him.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a great sounding instrument. It still sounds great when you hear it on these records all these many years later. Another thing we want to touch base on was the fact that you played banjo on a pretty popular record called Pinball Machine
Yeah.
by Lonnie Irving.
Yeah.
Now, if you collected those old Starday various artists anthologies, you'll see that name Lonnie Irving and you'll see that song Pinball Machine come up, and that's about the only record he ever made. It's an interesting story how that all came about.
We knew him. He came to the dances, and I'm not sure if he ever sung at the dances or not, but we knew him. We knew he was a truck driver. But anyway, he walked in the studio. We just went off the air. WHAA, and he said, boy, said, I just found out that I've got leukemia. Said, the doctors don't give me many months to live. And said, my dream has always been to make a record. Said, would y'all help me? Wow. And what do you say, Sure, we'll help you. And so they set it up. I think either Jim Eanes engineered it or Louis Compton one. I forgot now, but there was a Jim Eanes band that helped him make the record.
And you all cut that there at the radio station at Martinsville then?
Yeah. At that time, I think we just did two sides. So he could get his record. He had the record pressed and, paid to have it done. And
Starday put that out.
But then he started taking copies to truck stops and all, and got them to put them on jukeboxes, and it really got popular. And then Starday took it over then.
So he had it on an independent label first before it came out on Starday, then before Starday took it.
Right.
Well, isn't that something?
And then Starday wanted more cuts, so he came back and we did some more for him. But I feel good about that because there was never any pay involved, and I was glad to get to do it for him. And actually, he lived a little past a year, I think, after that.
Did he ever go out and promote these records? I mean, did he sell? I mean, did he go out and sing on shows or anything? Or
he done some, I think.
Yeah. His health probably wouldn't allow him to do too much.
But all we done was helped him make them, and then after that, I really don't know what all he done. We never was on any shows with him like that. But I'm sure he done some.
But he was from the Martinsville area then?
Yeah.
I'll be darned. Now, I know you all backed up Arnold Terry on some records, too, about
Yeah.
that same period of
That's the
time.
same
He
time.
had some records on his own label. It was the Jim Eanes Band as
Right.
well.
He had a song called "The Mark of Cain."
Mm-hmm.
It was a real good song. And there again, his music was just a little bit different from Jim's. And later on, Jim had sung the same song, but it was in a different key and everything, So he changed it up.
Did Arnold go out and work shows on his own, or
No.
this was just something that he had that he'd sell on those dances you all worked?
Yeah, he was just trying to get started.
Mm-hmm. I know that we were talking while we were changing reels of tape about the different people that would come in to work there in Martinsville that Jim Eanes would bring in. He'd bring in George Jones and other acts that would come there and appear on the show.
Mm-hmm. And he'd promote shows, for them. Like, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was George. Martinsville Speedway. We did shows there.
Well, I know Bill Anderson told me that he used to, before he was ever a country star, he was a disc jockey down in Commerce, Georgia, and he used to play Log Cabin in the Lane, on his radio programs and your other earlier records, on Star Day. Yeah. And he got acquainted with Jim and yourself back in those days,
Yeah. Of course, I got a story about everything, but I was standing on the edge of the stage watching Bill Anderson's band perform, and they were just fixing it. How they open it up and then they introduce the star. So we're standing there, and whoever was singing, opening it up, Bill, he's standing there beside me, and he was hunting the chord, whatever key they were singing in. And he hunted. Finally, he looked at me and said, "What key are they in?" I said, "F." And he raked it, and it was right. And he looked at me and grinned and said, "I hate a guy with perfect pitch."
Do you feel like you have perfect pitch?
No.
But
I just happened to be right that time.
So coming forward, you mentioned about you had gone to work with Jim and Jesse. We talked about that a few minutes ago, and they were working out of Valdosta, Georgia. They had the TV shows in Dothan, Alabama, you mentioned, and also taped a show in Pensacola, Florida. And then there was another show that they were doing in there too, Albany, or they said Albany.
Yeah, that was on Monday night, yeah. And these were all, Pensacola was the only one that had videotape at that time. The others didn't have it yet.
Had you ever done any television work prior to this?
No.
That was
only fill-ins for Reno and Smiley when they needed to be gone, and they'd hire Jim and his band to cover for them in the morning show at Roanoke. And we did it several times. Kind of got our feet wet there.
Yeah. That had to have been a whole new ball game, because I've heard a lot of people say that they were really good radio artists, and I've heard disc jockeys talk about this in the past, that there were some disc jockeys who were great behind a microphone, but as television came into being, they couldn't make the transition into television because they didn't look good on camera or whatever. They could talk, but they didn't have the facial expression or the personality or the look or whatever to put them across.
Yeah.
Was it a difficult transition for you to go from working radio into television?
No, I just liked to play. It didn't matter to me where or who. I just wanted to play.
So you really didn't have to approach anything that much differently?
No. Now, see, at TV at first, they had a hard time with the audio. They'd want to put a mic above the whole band, try to pick up everybody. And it took them a while to learn that you can't do that, because the banjo's going to override everything else, And so after they started micing things better, it got better.
I was going to ask how they mic'd you all in those days. Did they have a boom mic hanging from the above, or did you have separate mics on stands that you played into? How did that work?
I was trying to remember, but I think it was Stan's. But I'm not proof positive. I know they tried us with boom mics overhead, and you could hear the banjo and the lead singer, and that's about it. You know?
And God help the bass. You
Yeah,
wouldn't hear
didn't
no
know
bass.
he was there.
You didn't even know the bass fiddle was there.
You're right.
Now, when you joined the band, Vassar Clements was in the band playing fiddle.
Uh-huh.
And was Don McCann in there
Yeah.
at that time? Was he playing electric bass then?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, say no. I take that back. It was David Sullivan. We call it Binglehead.
Joe Binglehead was his stage name.
Stage name.
Yeah.
He was playing upright bass when I joined him.
And Don played the second rhythm guitar and sang the third part of the trio.
Right.
Yeah. Boy, they had a classy act.
Yeah. Yeah, they had some of the good harmonies I ever heard. There's no doubt about it. I'd hear them sing, and I've told you this before, "Will They Be in the Stars of My Crown?" It would bring me to tears.
Really? Wow. Wow. Well, they had something real special. That trio was just so good. And
It really was.
And when Don would sing those solos like Grave in the Valley and those things, you know, or it's time for the Whippoorwills to sing, you'd thought Perry Como had stepped up to the mic, hadn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, he had a crooner's voice.
Yeah, he really did.
Nobody sang like him, you know.
No, but he fitted third part so well with them.
Oh,
you know,
he really did.
just blend really good.
Vassar was an incredible fiddle player even in those days, wasn't he?
Oh, to me, of course, this is my opinion. I don't take nothing from him, but I think he was playing his best fiddle along then. I think, Gosh, I Miss You All the Time, Hard-Hearted, and those breaks he played on that stuff.
Diesel Train.
Oh, my. It just makes them chills go up and down the back of your neck and hair stand straight out, you know.
He really had it going on.
He sure did.
Now, you all left and went to Prattville, Alabama. Am I right on that? You left left Valdosta, and I know you told me once that Vassar didn't want to make that move. It wasn't any hard feelings, but he just didn't feel like moving, so he opted not to go at that point.
Yeah, right, yeah. And they added another TV show, see, at Montgomery, Alabama, there. So we did it on Friday night. And almost every week on Friday night, we were on from 6:30 to 7 o'clock, and they would book a show afterwards, starting at 8 o'clock somewhere, and we'd play a little school, something 40, 50 miles away. And we'd get to that little school, of course, they'd tell everybody on that show, you know, we're going to be there, watch us, we're coming through, you know, and when we get to that school, you couldn't get close to it. You never seen many people.
What was a typical crowd like in those days? How many people would they draw?
I don't know. I don't know, but there wouldn't be room to get the bus close to the school, hardly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the bus. They had a bus at this time.
They just got it. Yeah.
That was a new experience for you, wasn't it, traveling in a bus?
Yeah, that's the greatest thing that ever happened to a hillbilly picker.
Did you do any driving?
I was the third driver, yeah. Jim and Jesse and myself. Because who got the midnight shift? Does that tell you? That's right.
You had the graveyard shift.
Yeah.
That had to have been an interesting thing. I mean, learning how to shift those gears and synchronization, because those the RPMs of that motor have to be in sync. Today, most of the buses are automatic transmission, just like cars are.
Yeah.
But you had to have that engine, those RPMs at a certain speed, in order to shift that at the right time, because otherwise those gears would grind and you
couldn't get it in
you
gear.
couldn't get it in gear.
Yeah.
That was a nightmare. Was that a hard thing to learn how to do?
Yeah, especially when you don't have a speedometer and you don't have a tack to tell where the RPMs are, and it's all hearing.
You didn't have a speedometer in the bus?
No.
How'd you know how fast you were going?
Well, it would run 70 flat out, and most of the time that's the way we ran it.
Wide open, huh?
Yeah. We had a cruise control where you stick cut just right to prop it on the accelerator and underneath the dash, and then just sit back. That was cruise, 70, that's what it would run.
Now, did you have many interstates in those days?
Not too many. But but like I said, all of it was about hearing, the gear changing and all of that.
I'm sure you ground them a lot to start with, didn't you?
Oh yeah. And see, the bus they got was one that Flat and Scruggs thought they had worn out, and got another one, and they got the old Flat and Scruggs bus. And
now they were sponsored. Jim and Jesse were sponsored by Martha White at that point. Then
yeah,
that's how they were able to get that bus. Then
right,
I guess.
Yeah. But it was really great. I mean, you had a place you could actually lay down, and you had to drive all night.
How far out were you getting in those days when you go out to work a personal appearance?
We were mostly working in the South. Maybe you might have to drive all night to get home or something like that, or a day, or to say how far, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But in terms of TV work now, you were doing a show in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah, it was Montgomery, and then we were still on Albany, still on Dothan, and went into Pensacola and taped that one for Saturday. And then later on they added Jackson, Mississippi. We'd go out there once a month and tape 4 shows. And
so
these were all playing.
So you taped the one for Jackson, Mississippi, and you taped the one for Pensacola, but the others were done live then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's an amazing thing. Albany especially, I remember especially, the whole TV station was air conditioned except in the studio where the lights were. And it must have been 120 in there. I would take my banjo, of course there again we was talking about the difference in temperature and drying it out and dampness and all that on banjo. I'd take the banjo and lay it in the studio so it would get used to that heat. If I didn't, it would go all out of tune.
Now, by this time in the very early 60s, I mean, most people were using plastic heads on a banjo.
Yeah, well, I was then, yeah.
When did you start using a plastic head? Were you with Jim and Jesse, or did you start using that with Jim Eanes? Or do you remember?
Jim Eanes, I believe.
Okay.
Somewhere in the process between Raleigh and Martinsville, they came out and I started using them. I already had the RB250 banjo when I started using them.
Okay. When you did those shows for Martha White, you all would hand out flour and different things like that, wouldn't you?
Oh yes, certificates, give away flour, and I tried to give this older lady one time. I think it's either 10-pound certificate. She said, looked at me real funny. Said, I can't use the flour. But I love y'all's music, but I just can't use that flour. He wouldn't take it, Only one, I guess, I ever tried to give away that it wouldn't take it.
Now, were you all doing radio shows at that time as well?
Yeah. We were coming, let's see. We were recording the radio shows at WBAM in Montgomery. And we would go out there and do at least 5, maybe 10, 15-minute shows to be played back on WSM.
Okay, so they were playing those on WSM in Nashville then?
Right.
Okay.
And they would send us discs with the commercials on them. T. Tommy doing the commercials. And when Jesse would cut to a commercial, they would just play it, on there. And it sounded like he was right there,
Wow.
But the only thing was, everything went on it, mistakes and all. You didn't redo nothing, you know. In fact, the tape, they never did stop the tape from one show to the other, you know. You just maybe do 5 and then you do 5 more, you know. And good or bad, that's the way it came out, mistakes and all.
I know you were with Jim and Jesse in you came with them in 1960.
Right.
Do you remember about what month that was?
It was in dead wintertime.
Okay.
Because I had left home in Martinsville, Virginia. It was 3 degrees above. And no, it was in the fall. My wife can help me with that. Timberly had just been born.
Yeah,
September. That's when I joined them. But I'm talking about now is when I moved down there.
Okay.
When I moved down there and brought the family, we left home. It was 3 above, pulling the trailer. We got down there, well, unloaded it in the short sleeve shirt.
Whole different ball game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I know that I was looking through some stuff, and I think the first session you did with Jim and Jesse, you talked about "Gosh, I Miss You All the Time." I think that was in December of 1960. So you hadn't been with them too long when you were recording.
No.
That had to have been a big deal to come to Nashville and record and be on Columbia Records. And
Oh, man, yeah. Yeah. Everything that happened, it was just bang, bang, bang. Everything just blowing us away, you know. And then we had come in and done the Columbia artist thing, you know, for the DJ convention.
Yeah.
And I never forget, we did Diesel Train. And Buchanan played the fiddle on that. And brought the house down. Oh, man. It's just unheard of, unknown band, you know,
Yeah.
bluegrass band.
well, I know that one of my favorite statements that I've heard you say, and Jesse has quoted you as saying this many times, is, "We really had it back then, but nobody wanted it."
That's true. But when I say it was a big thing, it was an artist, Columbia artist thing, and I'm talking about there was Johnny Cash, there was Flat Scruggs, there were
Ray Price,
yeah, all those.
Lefty Frizzell, Carl Smith, all those people.
Carl Smith,
They
all
were
of them
all
were all on Columbia, and and they had us, I think, open the show, you know.
Y'all were a new act. But you put a skull on them, it sounds like.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It was a big thing, you know.
Wow. What about working the Opry? Yeah, I mean, you guested on the Opry a number of times before
Yeah,
Jim and Jesse
scared to
became.
death every time.
You remember your
Scared
first?
to
You
death.
remember your first night out there?
No, not really, not that much. I'm just scared every time I go out there.
Really?
I haven't got calmed down yet. Somebody said when you get so you're not scared, you can't play. That you won't do well.
You don't belong on that stage if you don't have a little bit of apprehensiveness.
Right? Yeah.
I know
I
that
think
one of
that's
the.
pretty well true.
I know a couple of the events that you work with in Jim and Jesse, when you're with Jim and Jesse there in the early 60s, were real important events for the music. One of them was an all-day bluegrass event that Bill Clifton promoted. It took place at Oak Leaf Park in Luray, Virginia, the 4th of July, 1961.
Yeah.
And Monroe was there, yourselves, Mac Wiseman, the Stanley Brothers. I think the Country Gentlemen were there out of Washington. Do you remember that day at all?
I think I do. If it was long about there, they had this stage with a cover on it and a couple of dressing rooms built out in the woods. And of course, they had built, you know, like benches for the people to sit on, and it just had one good-sized extension cord coming out there to that thing.
Pretty primitive.
Yeah, real primitive. And so just before we walked out on the stage, well, I looked out there and there were reel-to-reel tape recorders all the way around the stage, you know.
Had you ever seen that before?
No, never seen that. Well, we walked out there and hit that theme. and everybody cut them recorders on. Off went the power. No power. Kick the breaker, you know, or whatever it happened. Blow fuse. And so they made every one of them that had them recorders plugged up to unplug them. And they finally got the power back on, and we went ahead and done the show. But there were some mad people. They didn't get to record it.
I bet that was the case. Wow. I know another one of the big events in the early 60s was when you all played the Newport Folk Festival, and I think that was about 1963. I was up in Newport, Rhode Island. You remember working there?
Yeah, sure do.
And some of those cuts made it on their way to a Vanguard album, I know, at that time, too. Was that the first time that you'd been that far up in the Northeast?
Yeah, it was.
What was it like at that time? The audiences were certainly different up there than what you were used to playing for in the South at schoolhouses and dances and auditoriums and such.
Yeah, we had played 3 or 4 days in New York City at different places in the city.
Was that your first time in the city, in New York City? Or had you been there before?
I mean, this is a separate time that I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
And there again, you got a bus there with Martha White painted all over it in Alabama tags. And you're in New York City, and you know about all this race stuff was going on and all that. It was kind of scary. We were coming back out of New York City and stopped to eat, and when we pulled back out, we met somebody. It was on a 2-lane road. We met somebody, and they threw a brick or something at the front of the bus, and it hit. It sounded like it was coming through. It made a big dent in it. But I told Jim was driving. I said, "Don't stop. Just keep going. Don't stop." But
were there a lot of encounters at that point in time? Did you have a number of incidents like that?
Well, they didn't say nothing to us. But evidently they didn't like us being there.
I've never thought about that, but you know, those times were turbulent times in the history of the country. In the 60s, you know, where the people were fighting for racial equality and equal rights and all that sort of thing. And of course, you mentioned being from Alabama. You know, so much was going on down there in Alabama at that point in time in the 60s, and going into places like that, you know, you were foreigners in that turf there, really.
Yeah, and Newport Folk Festival, it was, as you say, it was huge. It was. They had about everybody that was anybody on that thing, and
did you notice that the audiences were different there than what you were playing for in the South?
Yeah.
How so? How were they different?
Sitting out there with pen and paper, taking down everything you done, you know, making notes.
They were students then of the music.
More, yeah.
What was their enthusiasm or reaction to what you all had done? What was that like?
Oh yeah, they reacted really well.
As good or better than the people
good.
in the South?
Well, that's good. But it was pretty amazing that how they made notes and this thing. It was you never saw that before, you know.
Well, you probably didn't realize, Dallin, but at the time you were probably having the same effect on these people, like Monroe and Flatt and Scruggs had when you first saw them. It was just a different day and time, different part of the country, but it was they had that type of an impact. You know, you all were having that on those people up there.
Yeah. But it was Eric Weisberg. He was there. I met him, talked to him. I was there, and but he was one of the main three-finger banjo players, you know, at that time, up in that area.
Mm-hmm. People dressed a little differently up there too, and they had the longer hair. You weren't used to seeing that probably as much in the South.
I think Bill Keith was with Monroe at that time, and when they played it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
I think Del McCurry told me about that. He said that was the first time that he met you, I think, because Del was working for Monroe at that time, and Bill Keith would have been there, and he said that you all got off somewhere and played Stony Creek for a couple hours one night.
Jamming. That's probably true. Yeah.
What was it like working for Jim and Jesse? I mean,
Well, they were real good to me. They never told me what to play or how to play, and I think that had a lot to do with your style and what you do and how you put things together. And what I would do if they was fixing to record a song, I'd try to play a couple of different breaks and say, now, which one of these you like the best? And 9 times out of 10, they'd pick the one I was wanting to play anyway, you know. So.
Did you all rehearse a lot before you went in to record?
No, not that much. We were already so practiced up, you know. We didn't have to do a whole lot of practice. Mm-hmm. But when we go in to record, we'd do different songs than what we'd been doing, you know. Some of the songs we wouldn't get till we got to Nashville to record.
Because I know they did like one session for for Columbia, and then they ended up going over to Epic.
Yeah.
You know, and you cut some impressive stuff with them. I brought some records from home that date back to those days, and we were talking about those Martha White radio shows.
Yeah.
And
now this is, I need to say something about that. This is those radio shows that I've just got through saying that we didn't cut the tape off. In other words, Jesse just went through there and picked out songs and put them in this album. And it's amazing to me how there's very few mistakes in it.
Well, you guys were playing all the time, and when you're playing like that, you learn to know how the other's going to think.
Yeah.
And this one here, Bluegrass Special.
That's the first one we did.
Yeah. And of course, that's David Sutherland and
Mm-hmm.
Jim, Jesse, Don McCann. Jimmy Buchanan
Right.
replaced Vassar
Right.
in the band, and yourself. That was the band right there. I mean, things were in motion already. You talked about Vassar Clements,
Yeah.
and they'd been playing music for a lot of years. They started in 1947.
Yeah.
And when they got Bobby Thompson and Vassar Clements, that's when things started making a change in their sound. It was really
Right.
starting to solidify.
Yeah.
But after you came into the picture, and then Jimmy Buchanan came on board after that, that's when everything just came to its zenith. Most people look at it that way. That was just it was an anointed configuration of people that was meant to be.
Well, we all got along real well. You know, that's part of, as you know, you've been out there. If you can't get along with your buddy, if you're traveling night and day with, you're in bad shape, you know. But we all got along real well.
This music in here, I'm about to drop the record, but this music here, I mean, this is textbook stuff. I mean, I look down through these titles: Sweet Little Miss Blue Eyes, Somebody Loves You, Darling, She Left Me Standing on the Mountain, Don't Say Goodbye If You Love Me, I Wish You Knew, When It's Time for the Whippoorwill to Sing, Grave in the Valley, I mentioned that one earlier, Blue Bonnet Lane, Are You Missing Me, Congratulations Anyway, Picking and a Grinning, Stony Creek. I mean, this is textbook music. I mean, when you listen to this stuff, this is like going to a clinic, you know, to learn how to play music. And then that next one that came out, Bluegrass Classics.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Also, just again, definitive music, you know. And you always look so good on the stage. The whole band just looked like they just stepped out of a Western store, you know.
Well, we tried to, you know, we tried to dress alike and look uniform and clean cut.
Well, that was.
I know somebody told me that Monroe told a fiddle player one time that he needed to get his hair cut. He said, "What kind of haircut you want me to get, Bill?" He said, "A bluegrass haircut." Of course, Bill's standing there with hair right flowing down to his shoulders. You know.
Those shaggy sideburns down below the ears, too. This was a classic record you were on, The Old Country Church.
Yeah.
They would really just nail it right to the wall then.
Yeah.
That was.
There was one album that Jesse still asks about it. I don't think this is one, but it's a gospel album that he kicked off every song on the whole album. You know, all 12 sides. And on the way back home that day, I said, well, Jesse, I said, you ought to be satisfied. You usually complain you didn't get to play the melon enough. I said, you should have got to play the melon enough on this album.
What did he say to that?
Just laughed.
Well, talk about laughing. Y'all did this record, Bluegrass Humor.
Yeah,
Y'all come.
yeah.
Now, by this point in time, Jim Brock had signed on
Right.
in the band playing the
Fiddle, yeah.
fiddle. And he did a great job, too.
He sure did.
He really played the show well. He did a great job. Boy, what a cover.
Isn't that something?
One of the tunes that I always remembered in here was when y'all did Old Slewfoot.
Yeah,
Now, you played like a clawhammer type banjo.
I tried to.
Was that something that you had done much of through the years? Because I don't remember hearing you do that too awfully much.
I just thought that it would fit that song, and I done my best, but it did turn out clawhammer, but it wasn't straight picking either.
Did
I
you
don't
ever?
know. I
Did
don't
you
know
feature
which
that
song.
technique on the stage much, or
Yeah, well, that song, yeah.
on that
all
song?
All the time, yeah.
But on other songs, did you do it
No,
on other songs? Now, boy, now here was a departure. Berry Pickin' in the Country, Jim and Jesse and the Virginia Boys, the great Chuck Berry songbook.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
a real departure to hear an acoustic band like you guys doing Maybelline and Memphis and things like that, and Johnny B. Good.
Now, best I remember, this was done with a Vega banjo. The Vega company had gave me a banjo to play, and this particular album was done with it. But you're right. I mean, that real thing really caused a stir.
How so? Talk about that.
When we were doing one of the cuts, I can't remember now which one, but when we finished the cuts and they said it was a take, I looked around and all the people from all the offices and everything were standing there watching from, Epic or Columbia or whatever you call it. And I thought, man, if this is, if everybody's wanting to see what's going on, this is causing something going, causing a big stir, And it turned out real good. Oh, and I don't know if I should go into all this or not, but you might already know about it. But they were going to release Maybelline, not Maybelline, Memphis. Well, we didn't know it, but Platt and Scruggs had done the same album, and they were going to release Memphis, and both on the same company. And so, come to find out, we found out way later on, after all kinds of hard feelings, that the same guy had brought the idea to Jim and Jesse's producer, and also went right on to Platt Scruggs, presenting them with the same idea. But anyway, to make a long story short, they wouldn't release the record. And finally, when they did release it, they released both cuts, Platt Scruggs and Jim and Jesse, the same day. And so the DJs then had to decide which one they was going to play.
Uh-oh. I bet there was a little friction going on there, wasn't there?
Well, they didn't know about us, and we didn't know about them. See,
Right.
And so I don't know if you'd ever heard that story.
No, I had not.
But
this album was a real departure from anything
my.
that you all had done.
Yeah.
Up to that point, that's for sure.
Well, I heard Jesse compare Chuck Berry's writings in this album with Hank Williams in his writings, and for how good they were written. And
I remember your banjo playing on Johnny B. Good. I mean, you were playing like rock and roll type electric guitar stuff on that banjo. You remember that?
that came from Ian's days on the dances.
Yeah. So much of what you know goes back to those dances, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that creativity. I mean, that those long shows and those long periods of time, that gives you a lot of opportunity to think, doesn't it? And like you were saying earlier, that if you make a mistake, nobody's going to hear it, and you can try it again till you get it perfected, right?
Right. It's as long as you don't break time. You know, as long as you keep the time right, they're dancing. They don't care if you missed a note. You know.
They can't hear it. This is that other gospel album that you were on with them, Sing Unto Him a New Song.
I think that's the one that he did that.
They kicked every song off on
Every
the
song
mountain.
on the mountain. I believe that's right.
There's some good stuff in there. And of course, you were with them when they became members of the Grand Ole Opry.
Right.
That had to have been a tremendous thrill in your life, to know that you could be a part of something as significant as the Opry.
Yeah, it was a kind of strange way it came about. We came up to do the Opry or something like that, and they had a meeting to go to, and they did. And we were talking about it later on or something, and I mentioned something about, I said, when y'all gonna join this thing?
Because you all had guested quite a bit.
Yeah, I said, when you gonna become members? You know. And Jim kind of looked at me and grinned kind of sheepish, said, well, we're supposed to sign tonight.
How about that?
Yeah, and evidently I guessed it, you know.
And that brought you to Nashville.
Yeah.
Now, I know they became members of the Opry in March of 1964.
Right.
And then you all came up from Prattville at that point in time.
Uh-huh.
That's where you all were living at that point in time, Prattville, Alabama.
Right. And
were you still doing the TV shows in all those southern markets at that point in time after you got to Nashville, or did that sort of end?
Well, they were most all of them had got the videotape then they could syndicate. And they started talking about doing that.
Mm-hmm. I know it wasn't too long after you all got here that Flatt and Scruggs, after having that early morning program on Martha White, the Martha White show at 5:45 on WSM, I think it was April of '64, if memory serves me, that they stopped doing that, and you all took that over there on the station and did that for a good while.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to come in town, and we didn't do all of them in Alabama. We sometimes came into Nashville and did them at WSM when it was located over in the National Life building.
Yeah, at 7th and Union Street downtown.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
did you enjoy making the move here? I mean, you'd hopscotched around. You'd lived in several places. I mean, you'd lived in Danville and Richmond, Virginia, and Raleigh and Martinsville.
The only problem about when they got to Nashville, it was more riding and less picking. But you know, when you hit the Grand Ole Opry, it's all points anywhere in the U.S. You know, and when you're like down Prattville, you're more or less local until maybe you hit the parks on the weekend or something like that, and you get to stay home more. But boy, when you hit to Nashville, all that's gone, and you don't play near as much. You just ride more.
Mm-hmm. But you really got out a lot further.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely.
Once they got here, I mean, that was a real shot in the arm for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Then they started doing the bluegrass festivals and everything, and all the way to California. And Jim, he was an excellent booking agent. And he would work us all the way to California and all the way back. You wouldn't just drive to California. You'd work each night on the way out there.
Wow. What was it like going into these markets that you'd never been before and having people come up to you? And, of course, the banjo is starting to come on pretty strong now in the 60s. There's a lot of pickers that are coming up with the banjo. Mm-hmm. And to have these young kids come up to you that had bought those records you'd played on with Jim Eanes and bought those records you were on with Jim and Jesse, and they were wanting you to show them licks or maybe give them a pointer or two. I mean, that had to make you feel awfully good.
Well, I always showed them anything they asked me. If I could do it, I showed them. I didn't never feel that you went wrong by doing that. I thought that'd be the thing to do. And when I was learning, if I'd have had anybody do that, I would have sure appreciated it. But if they asked me to play something for them or how I did this, I always showed them, and the best I could.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started, like you was talking about way back on it, when I started, there was Reno, there were Ralph Stanley, there were Earl Scruggs, and then later on a little bit, well, there was Hubert Davis and Rudy Lyle. He took Scruggs' place from Monroe that I could hear on the Opry song. But that's all there was. That's all I could hear, you know. And like you say, I just picked it up best I could. And I can't remember ever trying to learn a song and slowing the record down. I've heard people say that they did, but I never did. I don't think I ever did that.
Did you go and buy picks right off the bat for your fingers? I mean, did you know you knew to do that?
Yeah, and I had to experiment with different picks until I found one of those picks that suited me. And it turned out to be that's what everybody uses anyway.
What did you like? What did you find that worked the best for you?
Can't think of the name of it.
National made those picks for years. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it they just seemed to work better.
Mm-hmm.
I wore out a couple of sets. One set, this is kind of funny. Little Roy Lewis, he's collected stuff from banjo players, you know, and he said, "I want a set of your picks." And so I dug around and I found this set that I'd wore out. You know, one of the blades had done broke off of one of them, you know. And I gave them to him. It just tickled him to death. They said, "Now that's what I want right there."
One with a broken blade on it. You didn't care.
No.
Now, I know you left Jim and Jesse about 1966. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, at that point, you just decided to get out of the music business, and
yeah, we got in a what do you call it? Got divided by my money. You know, we couldn't settle on that, and so.
Did your salary up after you came to Nashville and got on the Opry and all that? Did they raise your salary any?
Well, it was pretty much a union scale
Mm-hmm.
already.
They pay you by the day, or did they pay you a week? By the
week.
By the week, okay.
But I don't know if I should go into all this or not, but the reason that I left in '66 was they were fixing to syndicate the television show. And the scale, I think, was $55 per show, per sideman. Well, they asked me to undercut that and do it for less. And so I said, well, he said, we're just getting started. Said, we've only got 7 or 8 markets right now. I said, well, when you get it going and say you get it in 100 markets, are you going to pay me more than scale? I said, no. I said, then you asking me to take the fall for it in case it don't work. I said, I won't do that. So I left. That's how that came about.
Mm-hmm. So that was in '66.
Yeah.
Now, you hadn't worked a day job with them, had you? Or did you?
No.
You would, because I know, didn't you leave Nashville and you ended up in New Orleans? Am I right on that?
Yeah, wound up to be a journeyman pipe fitter and welder.
Now, had you started doing that here in Nashville before you went down there?
No, I went down there and took training.
Really? I was going to ask you, what led you to New Orleans, of all places?
A friend of mine called me and asked me if I wanted a job. I worked 2 years at Lebanon, at Ross Gear. That was a kind of a day job or night job, second shift.
And that was after you left Jim and Jesse?
Mm-hmm.
What were you doing there? The pipe fitting work?
No, this was just machinist.
Okay.
And then I went to New Orleans. And then down there I joined this little band, little country band called Dixie Revelers. And we would play on weekends. And it had fiddle, electric straight, steel, and drums and bass.
Did you plug your banjo in?
Well, that's why I brought this up. I went in a pawn shop in Baton Rouge and found that little dobro 5-string. And I think it was $125 I paid for it. And I'd never seen nothing like it. And so I got it and put a pickup on it. And that's what I played with a country band. And it worked real well. Mm-hmm. And so I played it with them the whole time we were down there, down in New Orleans. And then I moved back to Tennessee and went to work at DuPont Construction.
When did you, and if I've got the chronology on this right, you left Jimmy Jesse in '66. You worked 2 years in Lebanon, Tennessee, so we're up to like '68. Yeah. Then you left from there and went to New Orleans. How long did you stay in New Orleans?
We moved back here in '75. So we were 7 years.
You were there in 7 years in New Orleans. Wow.
Yeah.
So you came back here in '75, then went to work for DuPont down in Madison, right. Tennessee. What were you doing for them? Same type thing, machinist type?
Welding and piping.
Okay.
And then the job ended, and I couldn't find a job doing that kind of work anymore. So what do you do?
How long were you at DuPont when that happened?
I don't know, 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
What do? You pick the old banjo up. I seen Jesse and I asked him, did they need a bus driver? Yeah, they did. So I took the job as a bus driver.
Had you been playing any music in that period when you came back here?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit?
Here and there. I played a couple of stints with the McCormick brothers when Haskell couldn't go. Mm-hmm. And that's about all I can remember.
But then I remember when Jimmy Jesse needed that bus driver. For some reason, I was thinking that was in the very early '80s because I was playing at that point in time, and that's when you and I got acquainted.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know all of us out on the festival scene at that time. I mean, here's the great Allen Shelton. We're going to get to meet him.
Oh, no.
Are we going to get to hear him pick? Oh no! Well, he drives the bus.
That's right.
And he sells the records. And I was like, I want to hear him pick that bow tie banjo with the raised head, and I want to see that pedal apparatus that you used on your old standby. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, they finally said, well, you need to play at least one tune.
Yeah, and I remember when they did that. They started featuring you for one song, and the crowd would just go.
And so that's how, and it gradually worked into a job again.
Now over the years, if my memory serves me, even though you weren't on the road with them, you did a number of sessions for them, didn't you? Didn't you play?
No,
you didn't do any session work with them?
No, I wasn't working for
them. You didn't do any session work in that period for some reason.
Now I did my own.
I remember
Shelton
you did.
Special.
Yeah, the Rounder album.
Yeah.
I've got that here.
Now I wasn't working for them when I did it.
Okay. That was on Rounder.
Yeah.
Where was that picture taken? You recall?
Near Lebanon in a man's backyard.
Straighten it up a little bit.
To get the glare. But anyway, I found out later that the trains quit having cabooses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you signed up, or if you done everything right, you could get one. And this man evidently had. He was sitting on 2 sections of track in his backyard. That's
a great picture. I like a lot of the tunes on here. I remember when this record came out back in the 70s, it seems like, mid-late 70s when this record came out. And Banjo Bounce, that's one that I remember got a lot of attention. That's your tune, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Shelton Special,
Yeah, that's mine.
Crazy Arms. I know you did a neat job with that. Of course, Bully of the Town.
Yeah.
Now that's a tune that Reno had recorded. Had you been doing that for years before? Or?
Well, I'd been playing it, but I didn't know he'd done
Yeah, he sure did. Silver Bells.
it. Yeah.
5 Foot 2 Eyes of Blue.
Yeah.
Where did that tune come from? I mean, is that something you've been playing for years?
Well, that goes back to the farmhands and Raleigh days.
Okay.
That's some of the stuff we did down there. Birth of the Blues.
Yeah, that was in here. Sweet Georgia Brown.
Yeah, that
Bye
was
Bye
another one.
Blues. And those were all things you had been playing in the farmhands days.
Yeah, in Raleigh.
Were these tunes that you had also featured with Jim and Jesse in your time with them in the 60s?
Not that much. I did Bye Bye Blues with them because it's fast.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the others I didn't do with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a classic album.
I have to tell you this, I guess, to go back. See, the farmhands, we had 2 different shows on WPTF.
Mm-hmm.
We had one at noon where we played this type stuff, more uptown,
More pop type stuff.
pop type stuff. And then we had the 1:30 to 2 o'clock where it was just regular. But that's the kind of stuff they wanted.
The station wanted that.
Station wanted it, yeah. That's how that came about.
Wow. So you came back to work with Jim and Jesse, and I know they started you with one tune, and then eventually they put you on that 5-string dobro.
Right.
Jesse played the fiddle in those days.
Yeah, switch
Mike,
off.
Mike Scott was the banjo player.
Yeah,
at that
real good picker.
point in time. Yeah, he played their show well,
Yeah.
and then eventually you got back into that role of playing the banjo with the group.
Yeah.
That was a solid band. I know you got to record some good things. Glenn Duncan was in the band playing fiddle at that point in time, and
Yeah.
and it was like hearing some ghosts up there, really, because I mean, you were there, and then Glenn has such a wonderful ability of playing the fiddle that he could, he could play just like Jimmy Buchanan if he wanted to,
Yeah.
or if it was something that Vassar Clements had played on with Jim and Jesse.
You could play that too.
He could play it, and it sounded just like it,
Yeah, I know.
And it was really special to see all of that,
There's a funny story. I started featuring Bending the Strings back when he was with us. And he struggled with a fiddle break on it. And he just couldn't get it to suit him, And finally one day, we heard the original record that Roy Russell had played the break on. He said, "That's the way you play that?" I said, "That's what I've been looking for. That's the way I'm going to play that." And he did from then on.
I know. I remember hearing him play that. It was like the ghost of Roy Russell had come back.
Yeah.
He'd been dead for 25 years or 30
Yeah.
years, and it's like I'm hearing this again.
Yeah.
It was so neat to hear that. I know you did another album in that period of time, and I'll show that as well. You autographed this to me, Alan. As a
Yeah,
matter of fact,
well,
you sure did. You gave me a copy of this when it came out. And that's a picture of that 5-string dobro that he was talking about. It's a very unique instrument. I don't know if those instruments are even made anymore, Alan.
Dobro Company made some, but they didn't sound like that one, I didn't think.
Mm-hmm.
But,
You still have that instrument?
Yeah, I come to find out after I got to checking on it that was a kind of one of a kind. They had made that thing to see if it would go, and it didn't.
It's kind of like a prototype kind of thing, almost
yeah.
like. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, this has got some good tunes in there too. You mentioned about bending the strings and when you're smiling. That's another one of those pop things.
Right, uh-huh.
That goes back to the farmhands days.
Mm-hmm.
You'd learned from that period of time. And I remember you sang "Walking the Floor Over You" in there.
Yeah, I loved the way Tubbs Band played that,
Mm-hmm.
and I had Jesse talked into singing it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came time to do it, Jim talked him out of it and said he didn't think a boss man ought to be singing on the sideman's record.
The one that got away. We talked about
So
that earlier.
so Carl Jackson, he produced it. So he said, "Well, Allen, you just sing it." Okay, we'll try it. Because I wanted it played so bad.
Yeah, I remember it was an acoustic version of like the Texas Troubadours.
Right,
The way
yeah,
they had
exactly.
done that. Which brings up another point. In your playing, you know, I've heard a lot of musicians that came out of the era, which you did, that were influenced by other things and other musics, and obviously the pop music, those jazz tunes that circulated in Tin Pan Alley or whatever, you know, in the 20s and 30s, and even before that in some cases, those had an influence on you learning these tunes like Whispering and When You're Smiling and 5'2" Eyes Are Blue and Little Rock Getaway and those types of things. Did the commercial country music of the era that was coming out, like in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, did the pickers, like the guitar players or the steel guitar players, did they have an effect on you, inspiring you at that point in time?
Well, I liked, of course you can tell by the pedal, I liked pedal steel when that came out. Buddy Emmons, he was my hero there. But I liked it. And Les Paul. And his records, oh, they just blew me away, you know. High the Moon and all those things he done.
Those records of his were masterpieces.
Exactly.
Because he was such a great technician.
Yeah.
But also he had a great feel too for what he did as well.
Yeah, and that.
Like Emmons did with his pedal steel.
Mm-hmm. And I liked anything with good harmonies, and like he did with the, you know, the High the Moon, and also with the Carpenters. She's about my favorite girl singer.
Karen Carpenter.
Yeah. And the harmonies they use, and it just blows me away. I love that.
So you would take what you heard with that and then adapt it to the banjo.
Best I could.
What you were hearing. Did you get to spend much time? You mentioned Buddy Emmons. I mean, I know that your paths crossed with him a lot over the years. Did you ever get to sit and watch him play or jam with him, or were you just picking up what you heard on records that he was on with other people?
Well, I was just picking it up mostly, but I finally got to tell him. There's 2 or 3 of his breaks that I think just can't be beat. One of them was Blue Christmas of Ernest Tubbs.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one was Half of Mine. I've got half a mind to leave you.
That was the first record he was on with Ernest.
Oh, I mean, I just haven't heard anybody could beat that, you know.
I hear you.
And I finally got to tell him. I just told him that I really appreciated his work and what I thought about it. And I said, I am proud to see a steel player play the melody. And he just grinned. He said, I said, I know I'm a banjo player, and maybe I ain't supposed to appreciate what you're doing, but I do, you know. And that he said, well, he always tried to build chords around the melody and make sure the melody was there. And he was just a great player. That's all I can say.
Did you ever get to meet Les Paul?
No, never did.
Well, he's still around, so you may get the chance. Where were we before we stopped? We ended the tape there. Wanted to backtrack a couple of moments though, because some things came to mind. You were talking about off camera about the fact that you were down in Louisiana and one of your tunes was in a movie. Am I right on that?
Well,
or you were in a movie with a band?
Yeah, we got to play the soundtrack for it, and with Dixie Revelers, did a little country band, but we played mostly bluegrass in it. Yeah, but
do you remember the name of the movie?
I'm trying, but but it's starred James Coburn, and can't think of the actress name. Lynn Redgrave. That's who the stars were in it, and I never did. I don't remember what the name of the movie was.
And then you were mentioning that Bending the Strings was in a movie as well.
Yeah, it's in For Richer or Poorer. Christy Alley and
Tim Allen.
Mm-hmm. And
was that the original Starday record that you had done with Jim Eanes?
Sure is. Yeah, I think they what do you call it when it keeps playing?
Mm-hmm.
And it's featured in a part of the movie. It says that movie's about Amish, and it's featured when they're square dancing in a barn, and they're using that tin to dance by.
I hope you got paid a little something on it.
Oh yeah, that bought a bean or two right there. I wish they'd pick a couple more there.
You were saying something else that was kind of neat off camera too, that when Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs dissolved in '69, that Lester called you about coming to work for him.
Yeah, that's true. And after I had just left Jim and Jesse and over the money problem, why, I asked Lester what they paid, and he said, and they paid less than what Jim and Jesse paid. And then I asked him about letting me record on my own, if I could get a chance. I had talked to Chet Atkins about doing some stuff on RCA, and they were interested. And so I asked Lester about that, and he said, well, he tried to pay his pickers enough that they didn't have to go outside to make any more money. In other words, no, I couldn't do it. So I didn't take the job.
It's flattering, though, that he called you.
Oh, absolutely.
Those were some big shoes to step into.
Shoes that I couldn't fill. No doubt about that.
What was it like, of course, in your Jim and Jesse days? You got to be around Lester and Earl because they were at the Opry. I mean, did you and I know you still acknowledge Earl as being your musical hero as far as a banjo is concerned.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to play any music with him informally, or did
No,
you get close to him or anything like that?
One time we were playing something where a bunch of artists were together, and we myself and Josh, maybe somebody else, was trying to jam backstage there, and we were our tuning wasn't the exact same. And Josh said, "There's Earl's banjo laying right there." Said, "Just get it." Of course, I tried it, and of course the setup on it was so different. I couldn't hardly play it. It was just right for him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the closest thing we have had. I really never got to sit down with Earl and tell him, what I think he's done and what he means to me and how he laid it down for the rest of us and all that,
Well, maybe you'll get that chance.
Maybe so.
I hope you can. I know what I wanted to ask you. We were talking about this when the last reel of tape ended. We were talking about melody and how you appreciated the way that Buddy Emmons played the melody on the steel guitar and kind of built chords around the melody. How do you approach a break when you go to play a break to a song, be it slow or fast? What's going through your mind? How does Allen Shelton approach that?
Well, I guess that's why I like his playing, because I try to play melody too. I don't get it done every time, but and there are some songs that you don't play melody, you just play what you call riffs or something like that. Like Cotton Mill Man, for instance. You don't actually play melody on that, but you just play, I guess they call it riffs or something else. But anyway, I look at it as I want people to know what I'm playing. If I'm playing Don't Say Goodbye If You Love Me, I want them to know that's what it is. So I play the melody, and not all around it.
Mm-hmm. How do you approach backing up a singer? There's as much of an art into accompanying a vocalist as there is to taking an instrumental break. You've always played some of the prettiest backup, and you've had just a special sensitivity, if you will, if you listen to a recording that you're playing on and the singer's singing, and when you hear what you're doing behind them, you're drawn to that. I am, because I'm a picker and I want to hear what you're doing, but really, in essence, what you're doing is you're complimenting that singer. How do you approach backing a vocalist?
Well, it's always been, And this is what I tell all the banjo players that talk to me about it. It's your job to make that singer sound good. And especially if you work for him, it's to make him sound as good as you make him sound. And don't overplay him, and don't, override everything. Play enough, but not too much. And that's the way I've always approached it.
And it's important not to play the same thing he's singing too, because
Exactly,
it'd be real easy to fall into playing that melody of what they're singing. You're just gradually drawn to that if you're used to taking a lead break. But then you're thinking, well, what am I going to play here?
Yeah. Well, people ask me that all the time. I said, well, just play what goes there. So what I'm saying is, play what makes him sound good. And
taste is a hard thing to learn in music.
yeah, you can't tell nobody.
You can't really teach that to somebody,
no,
can you?
you can't. Well, I don't mean to sound braggy or anything like that, but Jesse was talking about one time we were on the way down to Opry. He said, well, there's a lot of pickers out there. Play your licks. I said, they play everything you played. I said, yeah, but they don't know where to put it. So I think that's that taste you're talking about, that if you don't have it, you can't learn it.
But it's just as important, Alan, wouldn't you agree, to know when not to play it as it is when to play it?
Exactly.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. See, Nashville and all the way through, and you know this too, less is better. That's what was always taught us, and back up, less is better. And but you just don't overplay and you don't underplay. It's just a certain amount that you do that works.
I know
I don't know how to teach that.
I know you came back to work with Jim and Jesse, and you worked for them. You started out, as we mentioned, as the bus driver. Then you got to doing one song, and then they had you on the 5-string dobro for a while. And then eventually you came back into that banjo player's position, and you did that for a number of years. And then you got out of the business pretty much completely for a number of years. When did you leave them the last time? Do you remember what year that was? Was that in the?
It was around 90, wasn't it? 89.
I was thinking late 80s. That's what I was remembering, but somewhere in there.
Yeah, I went to work down at college, doing maintenance work.
Volunteer State Community College in Gallatin.
Right, and worked there till I retired, until I become 65 years old. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I have been, after Jim died, I started working some things with Jesse. Mm-hmm. Not regular, just
on your own terms.
Kinda, yeah.
When you want to go out and just go out and do it and it's fun then, isn't it? When you don't have that pressure looming over you.
Yeah.
I guess camping and fishing is pretty much what you'd rather be doing more so than anything.
I'd rather go to Dale Holler and catch those rainbow trout.
Whenever I've seen you out, whether you come to the Opry and do a guest spot with Jesse, or even before Jim died, you'd surface somewhere once in a blue moon. It was always so great to see you again, to renew your acquaintance. But it was always so flattering to me as an onlooker, seeing the admiration and respect that you had from so many people in the community, and they'd be gathered around wanting to see you play or shake your hand and get your autograph or get the picture made with you and all that sort of thing. And to me, you just never lose your chops. I mean, you must practice to stay in shape.
I lose it. I really have a hard time.
How often do you practice, or how much do you practice, should I say?
It's according to what I got coming up ahead, If I'm going camping next week, I don't practice very much. But now, if I got a couple of shows to play, I try to start about a week ahead maybe a 15, 20 minutes or half an hour, and you get more than that a day. You know.
Mm-hmm. Do you
Try to
find
get those old hands moving again.
I was going to ask, after all those years of doing that machine work and like doing maintenance work and stuff, I mean, did that do a number on your hands? Did that bother your dexterity?
Well, it just age more than anything else. Your speed slows down. I mean, I can't get the speed I used to have. Somebody sent me some tapes the other day, burnt CDs of some of the old Jim Eanes stuff I did in '57 and '59, and it is absolutely flying. I mean, I couldn't touch that now. There's no way. And I don't say I did it then. You know.
Had a fire burning under your britches. It's called youth.
That's right.
Youthful exuberance.
Yeah.
I think they call that.
Yeah. But I just don't have the speed I used to have.
What's the future hold for Allen Shelton? What would you like to do musically?
Musically,
that you haven't had the opportunity to do this thus far.
I really hadn't thought about it that much. I mean, I figured my music's about over, you know. Like I said, I slowed down and everything, and when your people come to see you, they want you to play like you did. They don't want to hear you missing every other note and playing everything at slow speed. So I figured it's about over. You know, that's the way I see it right now.
Any aspirations on recording again, or doing?
Well, my
another
wife's been after me too, but I haven't decided on that yet.
How about any thoughts of doing like an instructional video or anything like that?
Well, I did a workshop up at Roanoke, Virginia, and well, I can't think of the boy's name now. The mandolin player that does that, Herschel Sidemore. Mm-hmm. Him and his friend, the banjo player, they put that thing on, and they talked to me about doing an instructional video, which we might work that out and do.
I think you need to do that. I really do. While I'm talking about banjos and kind of things about the instrument and learning, we talked a lot about the banjo that you played and the old RB 250 with a bow tie inlay. What kind of strings did you like to use on that instrument? Do you like light gauge strings? Or
yeah, light gauge.
Light gauge strings. How often would you change your strings typically when you were working all the time?
Just before they break.
How did you know when that was going?
No, it's the strangest thing, and most banjo players will tell you this. I'd play them dances, say Friday night, Saturday night, and then go in Monday morning to play the radio show and pick that banjo up, and it'd be just dead as a hammer. It wouldn't ring, it just sounded horrible, you know. And I don't know at the times I took that thing home and tore it all apart and trying to find what was wrong and everything. Put it back together, it sounded all right, you know. And but I soon learned that if I put up with it on Monday morning, just leave it like it was, just leave it alone. Tuesday, it sounded a whole lot better. It was me, it wasn't the banjo, you know.
Those instruments are some of the most temperamental things in the world. You know, from all the intricate setup things you can do and the adjustments. I mean, gosh, they're temperamental.
Yeah.
They can sound one way one day and one way the next. What kind of an instrument are you playing today?
Gibson gave me a Granada, one of the remakes of Granada. Gave me a prototype. And it's a real good banjo. It's better than the 250.
How new of a banjo is that?
They gave it to me in that last stint with Jim and Jesse. Mm-hmm. And I laughed at them with it down to Opry. The Gibson guy was there, I forgot his name now. but he was there that night. Last night I was supposed to play the Opry,
Mm-hmm.
and all the musicians were there. They was giving me a hard time. They said, Shelton said, "You're going to have to give this banjo back. You're quitting. You're going to have to give it back."
It's like breaking the engagement. You got to give the ring back, right?
And the Gibson guy said, "Nope, he don't have to give it back." Said he paid for that banjo the first 6 months he played it.
How about that?
So
That's pretty.
I was real proud of that.
Well, is there anything that you'd like to add or cover that we may not have done?
Well, sounds like we've done about everything and done all the damage we can do.
I didn't say this at the start of the interview, but today is the 23rd of August, 2005. You started in this business as a pro, as a teenager, in the early 50s, working there with Jim Eanes. That's better than 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think back to all that music that you've made through the years and those records that are so special to so many of us, but records that meant a lot to me as a youngster becoming a fan of this music. Those records you made with Jim Eanes and records with Hack Johnson, and of course that great body of work that you did with Jim and Jesse. You know, if you never ever played another lick of banjo again, you know, your place in the history of bluegrass music is firmly solidified. I mean, you've got a firm place in the history of this business, and I think Don Reno was pretty much on track when he made that statement in the late 50s when someone asked him, other than Earl Scruggs himself, who was the best banjo player around, and he said the name Allen Shelton.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I'm just honored that you feel that way, and other people feel that way. To me, I was just playing and trying to do the best I could, you know, and trying to make everything sound as good as I could. And I'm glad people feel that way about it. And it just, we was talking about strings a while ago. Right now I play Gibson light gauge, Scruggs, and they've been the best. But I can remember the time I looked for black diamonds, and even Bell brand.
I remember the Bell brand strings, yeah.
It had the best fourth string. That thing just sounded so good on a banjo, but it wouldn't last but 3 days. The wrapping would break on it, and but as long as it was playing, boy, it really played. You know?
It'd ring like a bell, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I know how your place in history, and as I said, I know where you stand because your record, as they say, speaks for itself. But have you ever given any thought as to how you'd like to be remembered? We know what the history books are going to say, but how would Allen Shelton like to be remembered for what he's done for this business?
Well, a good banjo player, so good enough for me, and a good, honest, reliable person. Somebody told me one time, and this a boss said something about that you don't have to be. Said you don't have to be the best at what you do, but you've got to be there. In other words, I told you when I first job with Jim Eanes, the boy didn't show up. That's how I got the job. He didn't show up. Even though I walked in there and never played professionally at all, I got the job. Now, he was good as there was, but he wasn't there, see. So that's my point. If you even if you're not the best at what you do, you got to be there to do it.
Well, Mac Wiseman told me once that he told pretty much every picker that ever worked for him, and I don't know if he shared this with you or not, but he told Donnie Bryant this, who came shortly after you left Mac's band. He said, you don't have to be the best there is, but he says, I expect you to give me everything you got.
Yeah.
And he said, just remember, you're getting paid to make me sound good.
He never told me that, but I believe it.
And he said, while I'm up there singing, your job is to make me sound as good as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And when it comes time for you to take your banjo break or for you to be featured playing a banjo tune, I'm going to do everything in my power to make you sound as good as you possibly can.
Yeah.
He says, you don't have to be as good as Chet Atkins, but by golly, I expect you to give me everything you got.
That's great.
Well, I've enjoyed this today. This has been a real highlight for me. I can't tell you that. Thank you for allowing us to come into your home, and thank you for your time, and thank you for your memories. And your wife was kind enough and fed the crew lunch, and we appreciate her hospitality and yours as well. God bless you.
Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Uh-huh.